a lot of that. But
I know you don't smoke weed. I know this. But I'm gonna get you high today. Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do.
That's a great way to start this out.
I know, right?
Hmm.
Frick Thursday, but it feels like Friday.
I know. The wife was asking. She actually literally thought tomorrow was Friday, but we were on Wednesday yesterday.
Right,
I was like, no, it's
right,
Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. It's like it's gotten to a point where it's like you can barely even tell what day it is anymore, despite us having
right.
calendars all over the place.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wolf Fleet. It is a wonderful Thursday, September 9th. I am Trooper FN2525. Intel with my cohorts here with Wolf 10 Media. Ow! And of course, Brian Gill Martin, the Maverick Hunter Saint. Hiya! And of course, Aloys.
The bear
Slay.
of the north.
Talking about jobs, which of course I don't want to talk about today, but we're going to talk about it anyway because you need my
Say hi,
advice in that
Eloise.
world. You need it. You
I
need
think
my
my
advice.
background noise gets the point across.
I guess so.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's waiting for a train, dudes. So I mean, if you're in New Jersey and you see a semi-hot female by a train, it might be her. So
Girl, you better
Uh-huh.
be a train conductor by the
eh,
time you graduate, at least. Before you start your career or whatever career you want to get into, you better
right?
be a train conductor because you sure love riding that train a lot.
Yeah.
Hey, hey,
Hmm. Yeah, it's about to say
How you doing?
it's too bad
right?
my dad isn't an engineer anymore. Otherwise, always I'd hook you up with a free ride or something.
Yeah, for real.
Nice.
Well, I mean, it just depends on what people want to do. I mean, most people have no idea what they want to do.
Well, that
Let's
was
be
me in
honest.
high school.
Yeah, I mean, that was me too in high school too. I won't lie. So,
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's basically all of us, like at least in that bracket of generation.
Oh
well,
yeah, definitely.
the fun thing is you don't have to worry about wanting a federal job right now because the potato the potato in chief is looking to want you to get jabbed, and of course, if you don't want to do that, you're gonna have to look for places that, of course, offer you opportunity. Which,
Hmm.
ironically, most employers, and this is something that you do need to know about jobs. Whenever it comes to any of that stuff, I mean, if they mandate it, I mean, they're looking to take on liability. So um, that's the other thing too. When we're talking about jobs, I mean, you have to look at your potential for. Well, you don't have to look at it right away, but you also have to look at the potential for injuries. So, I mean, if you're doing a warehouse job and stuff like that, you're going to need a certain amount of strength. So, I mean, you're going to have to build some off to the side.
Hmm.
It also means you're going to be dealing with a lot of like machinery. So, I mean, if you don't know how to operate, certain machines, you're going to be learning that on the job, hopefully. And, from there, you can probably get a nice little decent skill set. I mean, if that's what you want to go to, if you want to go into shipping and distribution, some people like that stuff. Me personally, I don't find it interesting only because it's a lot of work. Um,
Right.
Right.
but I mean, it
I
just
did kind of
depends.
work the warehouse life, and
Hmm.
they barely even used me for me to even get used to it at that point. So I was like, yeah, it's not for me anyways.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not for everyone. I mean, we've heard about the slave conditions, at a certain at a certain business that sounds like a Brazilian rainforest. So
Hmm.
I mean, it's a good way to get in shape for like a certain
No
amount of
time.
time.
Yeah.
well, I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
it just depends. I mean, it depends on whether you want to do a 2-year degree or you want to do maybe like a trade certificate that might help. I know that a lot of the guys that I know that went into that went into fire, I had EMS training with, and part of trying to get into the fire department, and a lot of dudes do this, is they go to get certified for EMT basic, which honestly all it is learning how to operate a how to operate an O2 tank, and also knowing what interventions you can and cannot administer. And as a basic EMT, there's really not a whole lot you can do. Um, you start doing more of the interventions once you get to the paramedic level. When you're an intermediate, I mean, obviously you'll be doing a lot of driving, but Other
Hmm.
than that, I mean, you do need to know a few interventions. You're always going to have your senior with you, so your senior is going to more or less, walk you through a lot of that stuff all the time. So you just have to be willing to be able to take someone else's criticism all the time. And if you can't take criticism, then stuff like that isn't for you. But yeah, and then having a good resume. Having a good resume also helps. A big chunk of our workforce is a non-specialized workforce, meaning they don't necessarily go to a 4 year or even
Hmm.
post grad type of training to do what they do. I mean, obviously, if you're in the medical field and you go into surgery and stuff like that, you're going to have to do at least 12 years. But most of our workforce is straight 9 to 5, which is kind of crazy. Um, and now in 2021, I mean, there's different ways of necessarily not having to do 9 to 5 and having alternative revenue streams. I mean, you'll see content creators that can make as much as $36,000 a year. I know of one dude who literally said that on stream that's how much he reported on his tax return. So
Hmm.
so I mean, if you decide to be a content creator, you have to go all in because
Hmm.
honestly it's an investment up front. And a lot of these YouTubers do not make investments up front. The ones that do make investments up front, you can tell because of the video quality, it's a little better because it's not just them; it's maybe them and another person that do the editing, and then of course you have to go ahead and put some form of revenue into your set design. Your background, your camera, your microphone set. If you're going to be using something like Restream to go ahead and do multiple platforms, there's no reason not to at this point. And then it depends if you're looking to invest in doing a StreamYard or Streamlabs, which one works better for you. So I mean, there's different ways to skin the cat.
Right.
But basically, in
Right.
2021, you don't really need a degree to be able to actually be successful. But it also depends on what success is to you. To a lot of people, it's just being financially comfortable and happy. And for other people, it means being challenged all the time. So it's different for everybody.
Hmm.
Right. Right.
It that's basically the basic part of life is just you're gonna get challenged daily, like that. Like they are not they're not wrong when they say every day is a struggle, which is always true. It's like you always have to you have to maintain, and
Yeah.
that's the
Well, yep.
that's like the biggest thing you got to do is like once you're there, you gotta maintain that
Well,
in any,
exactly.
any shape or form. Oh wow, we got a new person in here, Fizz Chozo. Hey
Oh, I
dude.
think. Oh, I think I've seen him about in other streams. Hey, buddy.
Well, here's the other thing, too. Like, Amazon just announced,
Hey Al.
and it's probably the best
Hey,
right
samurai.
is Amazon just announced
I pronounced it right, right?
doing
Yep.
more
Well, no.
specialized training for their
I
employees.
think it's Samali.
I actually saw that article today. I don't want to say free college for all their employees, but definitely more technical training. So Amazon's already thinking towards 2030 or towards a more uh, automated
Right.
workforce, which means they're going to need a lot more IT people. They're going to
Hmm.
need more computer technology. They're going to
I
need
hear
more.
free a lot, like free this,
Right.
free that, right?
Well, it's not free. I mean, the whole point is
Exactly.
that
Nothing in this world
No.
is for
well,
free.
no, well, it's
Nope. Someone
free
else
in the
pays
sense of
for it.
well, it's free in the sense of they're willing to go ahead and put in the money, which means they're going to more or less have you indentured to them for the next few years. And honestly, if you like that deal, then there's nothing that says you can't do it. Now they're gonna pay more or less. They're gonna pay you.
Indentured servitude. Wow.
Right.
Well, what do
That's
you
one
You
think
way of
went
works,
putting it.
there.
dude? Like you pay taxes. It's all indentured
Right.
servitude. You're not
Right.
free. I mean, if you were free, you wouldn't have to pay taxes. You could do whatever you want. Hell, you could go outside and do whatever you want with your 2A. But anyway, I mean, going back to the topic, it's when these employers say, "Hey, we're going to pay for your college tuition," it's what they're doing, and it works out in their model to actually do this, and it works in their favor because what they're doing is they're training they're training their own workforce is what they're doing to actually do these specialized jobs so that they're not actually having to pay top dollar for someone who literally went through like technical training and specialized training for this, who's going to be asking for more salary up
So
front.
it's on the job training.
Well, no, 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 no. I mean, you end up going to these schools and you literally have to take these classes that they want you to take.
Hmm.
But someone who actually paid more because they actually are in a different field and they technically can qualify for that particular job is going to want more money.
Hmm.
So it's another way to pretty much keep it all in house. So I mean, Target's starting to do that. As far as Walmart, I mean, in reading the news and stuff like that,
Google's
you
doing
know,
that too.
Walmart is looking to go ahead and start paying their employees starting at 16.40
Hmm.
because I guess Target being the other biggest retailer, they're paying their employees $15 an hour. And in reading and finding out about this, doing a little research, it turns out that $15 an hour comes with the condition of you've been there for at least one calendar year. So in order for them to pay you uh, the inflationary $15, more or less, you have to commit a year, which means they're going to start you at a lower wage, and then they put you at their base wage. Now, casinos do this as well, especially since I do have some familiarity with casinos because I've dealt with them on and off. They do this too in some departments where um, their base pay is actually higher than the starting wage, but it's all based on the condition that you're able to stay gainfully employed at least 6 months, and then they raise your pay at 6 months, and then at a full year you go to your full base pay. They just want to make sure that you're the type of employee that's not absent all the time. They want to make sure that you're the type of employee that meets the criteria that they look for, and that they uh, more or less figure out if you're the type of employee they want to retain because you more or less fit within their work culture. And that's a lot to take in terms of work culture because that's something we don't really talk about. You know,
Hmm.
everyone
Hmm.
more or less that I know of on the stream has spent hours and hours and hours talking about woke this, woke that, woke this, woke that. We don't talk about work culture. Work culture works in the same way. So if
Hmm.
if
Right.
you don't fit in the all inclusive, all diverse, equity for everyone work culture, guess what? You're going to be odd man out, and you're going to have a hard time retaining your position because, of course, you don't fit in that schema.
They
Best
want
thing
that
to do?
equality of outcome situation.
Well, absolutely not. It's they don't necessarily like employees who tend to question decisions when they're made.
No, they do
But I
not.
mean, but I mean, this goes with talking about leadership. I mean, they're not looking to hire leaders. If they were looking to hire leaders, then that's what they would do. Um, and if you're going to be a leader, then you need to go ahead and I hate to say this, you're going to have to more or less go about it the school route to have the paperwork behind you to say, hey, I've got a 2-year or a 4-year degree in hotel management. I can apply for, an assistant front desk manager as opposed to just starting out as a front desk employee. Sadly, what tends to happen with a lot of these type of positions is someone gets hired that's underqualified so that they're paid less, which means they know less about their job um, than the more apt employee who's also applying for this job. And what you end up getting is poor leadership. But again, they're not, I mean, they're looking to, employers always tend to develop their own leaders in the way they see fit, which usually means they're not developing them at all because more or less they they want to keep their jobs. They don't want the next person coming up to actually be the person that replaces them.
Even
And
though they will probably have to retire eventually.
oh, people don't usually, most people tend to end up being lifers, dude,
Ooh.
in certain specialized jobs. Like even the paramedics out here in Vegas, a lot of them are very senior. Um, but it's a double-edged sword. I mean, the burnout is about 5 years. I mean, the research had shown anyway. Uh, I want to say around 2015 that the average medic could handle about maybe 5 years of continued stress, having to deal with critical response before they burned out. But you also have those that are super senior as well. But I mean, they tend to take a ton of vacation when they have it, and then they come back, and then they take more vacation, then they come back. They take a reduced schedule, then they come back, and they do a full schedule. So I mean, the whole time they're playing the game to stay employed. Because once you have the seniority, you don't have to leave. I mean, once you've maxed out at your pay, you're good to go. Um, I mean, unless they're looking to do a reduction at as far as workforce goes, the only time an employer comes to you is when they're looking to do a pay cut, and you agree to take a pay cut to stay employed while they still end up cutting people at the low end and tell them, hey, you know what, you no longer have a job. We have to cut like 10 people. You're like number 8, so bye. So,
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't actually think we even need to be discussing jobs at this point because there's a big shortage of employees right now in 2021. People don't want to go back to work.
Because they got comfortable living at home under the pandemic
Well, I
conditions.
don't think so.
Do
Well,
you think the
that's
shortage will
such a
end though?
blanket statement. That's such a blanket statement, and yeah, I agree with you, Brian. But also, you figure people had a whole entire year to figure out, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this job. I'm gonna go run off and be a YouTube creator, or I'm
Pretty
gonna
much.
go run off and be a dog groomer and start my own business. Get my business license through the state, through the Nevada, state, you know, board or whatever.
Right.
Put a little money into a van, get some cool little, screen printing, get my website set up, or maybe I know someone who can set up my website, try to make it like nice and sleek. If I need to get one more certification, then I'll do that. Talk to some of these local veterinarians, be like, hey, do you guys need an extra groomer? You can contract me out, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, a lot of stuff has happened. A lot of stuff has happened since then. But yeah, you do have the ones that don't want to go back to work, but technically, a lot of the unemployment benefits ended on Labor Day. So people have no choice but to go back to work and or uh, apply, or rather, uh, take a job and then reapply for unemployment. Don't ask me how that all works. I just know that it happens a lot. So,
Hmm.
um, and then that just kind of kickstarts unemployment benefits. Because I mean, really, it's about gaming the system. I mean, if Potato is saying, "Oh, you guys can't get your unemployment anymore," then all you're gonna do is you're gonna get a job, make sure you get fired, and you go collect more unemployment. So,
Yep.
I mean, this isn't rocket science. We'll do it all the time.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
um,
And Luis has complained about the whole EBT situation already.
oh well,
So that
that's gonna be a forever thing. That's not gonna go away.
nope.
Nope.
Anytime this government has instituted any type of social welfare program, it's never been done away with completely. Um, I mean, they've been able to cut back on certain benefits, but it's never gone away completely. I was reading an article about Social Security running out, but I forgot when it's actually estimated to run out. I just know that people in our peer group, by the time we get to retirement age, it's not going to be there. So.
Oh boy.
Hey, you wanted
Yeah.
to talk about jobs. That's also something you have to talk about. You have to talk about retirement.
That's why I have
Yeah.
you for that. You know the game. You've been in this. You've been in this shit show for the longest time, and you
Yep.
know more than I do.
Well, only because I've experienced.
It's from basically life experience, not lived experience.
Well, only
Yeah.
because I've put myself in weird situations where I ended up having to kind of push through stuff. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
The
my first
original
job,
underdog.
like my first job was with an airline, and that was just
Yeah.
airport check-in, and then it went to a hotel, and then from there it went to everything I ended up doing with convention,
Endless. Hey, dude. Sorry.
doing in dealing with people of ill
Welcome,
repute.
Endless Nocturne.
Hello,
So
Endless.
not to dox myself too much. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
dealt with people of ill repute. I put handcuffs on people. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. Um,
I don't think it's doxing if you're being vague.
very vague, right?
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much it, man. It's like a lot of this stuff. I either learned from mentors.
Right.
You have to have mentors. So I've
Right.
always been you know, I've always been the young guy who never had a problem dealing with like older people. I loved working with older people.
Right.
I was weird in that respect because most people don't like. working with older people, with older officers or anything like that. I
I've worked with
do
a lot of older people
because
myself.
it's all a wealth of experience, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like I had a lot of father figures in that respect. So,
Yeah,
you know, anything I could pick up in terms of experience of dealing with people, talking to people, interviewing, um, asking the right questions, especially if you're trying to get information from someone, you know, how to actually not be as uh, not be too non-threatening, because I mean you have to keep some form of authority there when you're asking these questions, but being able to kind of get them to start talking about themselves and be like, look, we're going to be here, I'm here, you're here, might as well start talking. So,
right.
and asking questions like, hey, how'd you get started in this stuff, and that kind of stuff. But even back to like my airport days, I worked with a whole bunch of freaking battle axes. You know, you know, these airlines are in the news right now. Actually, only one airline is in the news. I honestly don't see United lasting
Hmm.
their way they're going. They're just now doing away with anyone that had a religious exemption. So I mean, they are looking for a fat lawsuit. I don't think United's going to come out of this very well. If anything, I think airlines like American will definitely come out very successful by not implementing any type of mandates like what
Mm-hmm.
United is trying to do.
Right.
And now that we're talking about jobs, Amer- uh, American Airlines, prior to what it is now, um, since I know my airline history a little bit, um, the the current ownership of American Airlines the story really starts with America West, which was a small, low fare air carrier based out of Phoenix. And then it kind of started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it ended up being really competitive in terms of if you weren't traveling on Southwest, you could travel on America West. There's nothing wrong with a low airfare carrier because you're still getting service from point A to point B. The whole
Right.
point was to be able to
Right.
offer quality service, say from Las Vegas to Phoenix, Phoenix to Los Angeles, if you have to take a connecting flight or if you took a direct flight or whatnot. The whole point, and Alois asked me a question about customer service. Everything that you do is customer service. Everything that you do. So either dealing with a peer within your company, dealing with a customer, dealing with your superiors, whether that be a sergeant or a lieutenant, that's still in-house customer service. I've always been able to do that very well. I've always been able to effectively communicate. It's something that I learned to do from older officers. Um,
Hmm.
it's and when we talk about when we talk about that particular air carrier, they were able to get themselves out of bankruptcy. So they had a little bit of money on the side, and the U.S. Airways started to default. They took over U.S. Airways, uh, and U.S. Airways was already a big company. So, I
Hmm.
mean, U.S. Airways incorporated a whole bunch of other little smaller airlines. And then same thing happened. American Airlines started to defaulted, or rather started defaulting. Because again, the, as the government, because we technically are the government. I mean, we pay for all this stuff. Like we pay to keep these airlines in business. A lot of these are always in the negative, so we keep them going. So they had a little money on the side and they bought out American Airlines, and that's where American is right now. So, in terms of companies and in terms of, you know, what an employer tells you what you can and cannot do, so far they're ahead of the game. I personally think they're looking, long term, because if you start telling most of your flight attendants, your rampers, your pilots, your customer service agents, hey, you need to go get out, you need to go get some smoking concoction in a little petri dish and jab it in your body, most people aren't going to do that. A lot of these are under emergency use, but not to stray too much from the yard. You also want to look at successful companies. when we talk about jobs, you want to have, especially on your resume, you want to have like big brands on your title, because that says more about you than your skill set does. Sadly, your skill set should say it all, but most people they see, oh, I see you worked at, what's a good example? We'll throw something out there. So
Taco Bell.
let's say that you've worked at a hotel. Let's say you worked at a Waldorf Astoria.
Mhm.
So if
Or
you worked at
Holiday Inn.
yeah, so I mean, if you worked at a Waldorf Astoria, and then like Brian said, Holiday Inn, and you're applying for some other job, what's gonna look really nice on your application? Waldorf Astoria is gonna look really nice on your application.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you have to look at it like that too. Um,
Is
and
that's a toss up to what you what sorry. That's a toss up to how much you want to put into your application that's going to sell well, not just throw everything out there on the application. Like even if you don't list a certain job, one job at least will catch their eye and say, well, he worked at this, instead of just, oh, he worked at a lot of jobs, you know?
well, well, the point being is, if you're dropping your resume, and things have since changed in 2021. I mean, now you can go through a job engine, you apply and whatnot. What hasn't really changed is the fact that they still give you a field where you can go ahead and upload your resume. And most oftentimes, what they'll do is they won't even look at your application. They'll just print out your resume. So your resume is literally the one and only opportunity you have to catch their eye. So um, if you worked out a Waldorf
Mhm.
Holiday Inn, you sell that Waldorf Astoria job, and you put Holiday Inn as well for your overall hotel stay. But when you speak to your manager, I mean, you got to talk up Waldorf Astoria. Be like, hey, you know what? I help people come in. I worked in a 4-star hotel setting. I know what comes with the rigors and demands of being able to offer optimal service and being able to offer them products, check in terms of upgrades, upsells, that kind of stuff.
You kind of sound muffled, dude.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
For me,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't. I'm not hogging the mic, so
you sure as hell not kissing it either. You just sound far away from it.
yeah. So other than that, I mean, if you're like me, I mean, if you've got a little bit of, if you got a little bit of everything,
Right there with you,
like
family.
honestly, me personally, at this point, it's not feasible. I mean, if you're a medic right now, it sucks because they want you to jab yourself with some smoking concoction, green goo. Uh,
Mutagen goo.
well, either that, or if any of you guys saw the movie
Fuck, if
Enchanted,
only if it was TGRI.
if you if
Yeah,
you if
right.
you saw the movie Enchanted with that little caramel apple that and the caramel kind of looked like a skull.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what they want you to do. Here, eat this. Like,
right, right.
Oh yeah.
that's exactly what they want you to do. So,
Eloise, are you in a quiet place now?
Guess she's busy.
I guess she's busy.
Yeah,
But
busy trying to get on that train.
yeah, and that's going to be the other thing too. It's you know, a lot of people don't tend to pay attention to commuting. Like, I don't know, you're in California, so I mean, there's so many ways to get from San Diego to point B. So I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
you could technically not work in San Diego and still work 45 minutes out and still be fine.
exactly.
Mhm.
Um,
That's kind of like how it's set up. I noticed that since I've stayed out here, it's
yeah,
kind of like that kind of setup. If you're not really in that setup, then you might as well just be looking for something that's like closer to home where you can walk
yeah,
to at that point.
Yep.
Because every job is outsourced, like maybe in another city where you would need a car to get, like you basically just need a car to get to any kind of workplace at best. Because if you want to transit, that's not always feasible. So I generally like tend to apply for jobs that are at least like that's like friendly.
Sorry, I didn't realize I turned my camera on.
It's okay.
I thought I was muting myself. I pulled the wool.
Hardly recognized you.
Yeah,
But yeah, back to what I was saying, like in the San Diego environment, especially in whatever location you're in. I'm in the Chula Vista area.
yeah,
That's
Right.
yeah,
basically that's basically scarcity when it comes to the job situation
Hmm.
in that front because a lot of workplaces are closing. Like a lot of businesses are
yeah. They are.
closing left and right
California has it
here.
hard right
Yeah.
now.
Small
Yeah, we,
businesses, big time.
yeah, we got hit hard. Like some of my favorite spots that at least either I went into to buy or I used to pass by are gone, like completely gone. There was a bookstore that I used to pass by. That's gone now. There
That's
there used to
crazy.
be yeah, it's a bookstore
Actually,
where they yeah, it's a bookstore where they sold a lot of books, like even
me too.
language books, history
Me,
books, and what's up?
yeah, no, me too. I know that feeling because the one actual used bookstore that was top notch, in terms of selection and in terms of pricing and better than a lot of these freaking big box bookstores. That store closed, and it
I'm
was
just
all
glad
due
the
to.
bookstore that I frequent is still
Mhm.
around in the mall. But then again, that's probably why it's still there because the mall,
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
you figure
Oh
that the
yeah.
mall gave them like a really cheap like deal to literally stay there because a lot of these malls too, like malls are dying out. I hate to say that out loud, but
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
malls are dying out because retailers have slowly started to pull out of some of, not all metropolitan cities, but they pulled out of most of them. So I mean, now they're just in the big like urban areas. Like Las Vegas used to have a Virgin Megastore. We no longer have one. Um, so I mean, I'm sure the one that's still in Cali is still there. The one in NYC is still there. Um, Hot Topic is a company that's pretty nationwide. We haven't had any Hot Topics pull out. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we haven't had any. We
If
haven't
not
really
that,
had
it'll
any
be
fast
replaced
food
by
chains
another hot
pull out
topic.
either. Yeah, like I mean, if we're talking about jobs, let's talk about some fast food companies really quick. So Porta Subs used to be real popular out here.
Hmm?
Um, they only have about maybe 12 locations in the valley now. Uh, it's all been taken over by Subway and or Quiznos. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you see some Jersey Mike's and you see some Jimmy John's. I don't know how many of those are actually still in Cali, um, but yeah, when we talk about the job market, that's a thing too. I mean, these companies end up being affected
I
by
know. I know
external.
Sears and Kmart don't exist anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and
Those closed a while ago, if I
Yeah, that was a
remember.
while
Circuit
ago.
yeah,
That was
City.
a while ago.
no,
Montgomery
but
Ward.
like there used to be like a Sears in my local mall, but they like closed it down, and there's still a Kmart like up the mountain, but it's um like up the mountain from where my mom used to work, but it's like I don't know. I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know what happened to it. It's probably gone.
Hmm.
Most
That's
likely.
usually how you end it on.
I mean, back when well, I don't know. I don't know about you, Wolf, but like for me anyway, being out here in Vegas, like every Christmas, like my mom would like take my brother and I over to Montgomery Ward's to see Santa. Um, and Montgomery Ward finally pulled out, and of course, you don't hear about Montgomery Ward anymore because it's one of those chains that's gone into the wayside of history. But and it's been like that in California too. Like, I mean, I have family in California. I haven't been back there in a while, but some of the more smaller like mom and pop stores, I mean, they're more or less are gone. Like, um, and that's really the sad part too when it comes to jobs is you're looking for stability. So I mean, a lot of people tend to go for big companies. They don't, and that's where a lot of these mom and pop stores really have a hard time retaining employees or even finding employees because employees want security. But
Hmm.
I think we become too lazy also because we're used to, oh, okay, I get dental insurance. Because the way the laws are written now, it's like you actually end up costing these employers just about a little more than what they pay you.
That's what I've been telling my mom since her last visit. I was telling her because she was
Mm,
complaining about certain things about lots of places being closed down. Dur- This was last year, by the way,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
and I told her, Mom, what do you think this all is? They're trying to make us fat and lazy. They want to keep us in our homes. They want us looking at our TVs, and you're just sitting here getting fat and lazy. That's the
Yeah.
whole point of this measure of what they're doing to us, especially when they're trying to get rid of the jobs or getting rid of certain jobs that just, especially the jobs that are like of a capitalist mindset. They're trying to get rid of those. They want
Hmm.
they just want you in your house, especially for the elderly, at least like the very hardworking old boomer age demographic. They want
Yeah.
them in the house in the home just sitting around on their couch all day so that they won't be out and about encouraging the young to go out and do things if they're dissatisfied with their life, right? Or at least
Right.
leading by example. So it's imperative for I was telling her it's imperative for you, regardless of whether you're on lockdown or not, keep being productive, especially around the house. Like if you're complaining about your weight, do something about it. If you're complaining about your illness, do something about it. Or
Yeah.
any health factors, this is the golden opportunity to strengthen yourself. So when you get out there and you want to combat what it is that they're trying to force us to do, you have the energy, the physicality to take it on, and the mental fortitude as well
Right.
to
Well, I
boot.
think the big difference, honestly, the big difference, and I've said this before privately to you, it's like I didn't experience hardly any of the lockdown because I was more or less, recovering from a brain injury. So, I mean, I
Hmm.
was literally far removed from everything that
Yeah.
was going on.
Which yeah.
It's like I knew about it, but again, it wasn't affecting me because, I mean, I was more in the recovery process,
Mm,
just trying to get back to what 100% looks like for me now, which is very different than what 100% for me was before.
yeah.
But,
Well, along the same
For
lines, like if I could speak to that,
hmm.
yeah. The thing is, like for me, when the lockdown happened, I still worked, but with reduced hours because I work a municipality job.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I went from like 8 hours to just like 4 hours for a time. Then it went to 6 hours. Then back to 8 hours after a while.
Share more of
That's crazy.
your
for
job.
me for me like during the lockdowns, that was when I got a real job. I used to like work in a warehouse and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm mad that she used the
Well,
term
I know
real
what a
job.
real job looks like to you. So,
What's a real
but
Mm,
job look like? Like,
Oh,
a
hey,
real job to
Eloise's
you,
niece.
huh?
oh
I
no,
heard a child in the background.
that's yeah.
I heard. I know. I was like, "Hey, Eloise niece."
yeah.
Well, a real job to you, more or less, is you pretty much get to do the job that they hired you to do, and they mostly leave you alone.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so
Brian, tell us more about your job,
Yeah,
real quick.
so when I first started working, I actually worked a part-time job for this school in the area that was a kindergarten, and I was doing a lot of custodial work over the summer. It was janitorial work where we would just, the usual stuff of cleaning bathrooms, cleaning floors, taking out garbage, that sort of thing. And eventually, I ended up leaving that job. And when I got the job that I have now, my old boss at that school had actually, gave a recommendation to my current employers, and I've been there ever since for like good 17 years now, and
oh
going.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess one it's like I guess one takeaway from that I could give to the audience is never burn your bridges. Like always leave on a good note because eventually you will need a reference when you go to
Yeah, that'll
submit your
do it.
resume.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll
Yeah,
be the
that's one
first one
thing
to
you
tell
don't
you.
want to do. Like, if you want to leave, you gotta leave in style. You don't want to be like this.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
You don't want to be like me. I mean, you want to. I mean,
you
if
leave in style, motherfucker. You're
I
essential
burned
to the
I
room.
burned a lot of bridges, but honestly, I didn't care because
No, dude, you're free.
I already was set. So
You're suing the place down to the ground.
Look,
might
the
as
only
well.
look. All I'm saying is, in Trooper's pedigree, he's able to do that and still win. He's the Charlie Sheen of the workforce.
Pretty
It's like
much.
he don't care. I'm still winning. I'm still winning. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter to me. I'm still winning. You know what I'm saying? That's him. It's like he can leave and start anew and still be the most charismatic dude in the new workplace. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That
Right.
that's what I'm saying. When it comes to Trooper, that's what I'm saying. You're the one who's also leaving in style, but you're allowed to leave in that fashion
Yeah.
because you set that straight, and and again, once you go into a new place, nobody knows what you did in the last job, and
Yeah.
even then, if they did, if the old job tells something about you that's negative, they'll tell them, well, he don't act like that here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Hmm.
and
He
that's
don't
the
act
other
like
thing
that
too.
here.
That's the other thing too. Like
So is this a
when you're
different
in
trooper that we
transition.
have here,
Right.
or are we just say that you're the one who's lying to us? Like, cause like I said, we didn't experience it. We don't experience that kind of attitude with trooper here.
Well,
Right.
honestly, I think probably within my very small like work career, I think I've only ever followed uh two people to
Yeah.
other employers. Uh I followed my one manager who ended up becoming an airport manager. Like I told you, my first job. So he became an airport manager up in Utah or whatnot. I mean, and I was like, oh, cool. I mean, it's easy for because I mean, I got asked. It's like, hey, I have to open up an airport. Do you want to, you know, have that experience? Because I'm going to need some people to help me set up this airport.
But
And
trooper, that only works in the
oh, I
movies.
loved
No,
it. I loved it. But
oh
then again, I already had people. I already had people in Utah, and people who pretty much know me and know my history a little bit. It's like,
no, I
okay,
was
well,
joking, saying
I've
like
got
if
Utah all over
anybody.
me, so I'm like, yeah,
Well,
cool. I don't mind
what
going
I'm
back.
saying is,
Yep.
trooper, when people hear that, it's like some people's like that only works in movies. Like, nah, there's some truth in movies.
Truth in
There's
Some,
some truth
television,
in.
as they say.
some, yeah. So I mean, I got to de-ice aircrafts. Actually, one of the guys I was working with, he was actually like studying to be a pilot, already studying to be a pilot.
De-icing
I
sounds
thought about
interesting.
it. It is.
Mm.
It's really easy. Honestly, it's knowing how to. It's most oftentimes the de-icing fluid comes pre-mixed, but at a small airport, you have to mix your own de-icing fluid. So you actually get the de-icing fluid in a barrel, and then you have to do like a 50-50 mix if that's the concentration of the fluid that you're buying. If not,
Right.
if you're buying a full strength de-icing fluid, and you actually have to go ahead and create your own de-icing fluid, then I mean you have to pretty much know how to create your own 50-50 mix, which is not hard. But then yeah, so I mean it would be like getting up early in the morning, like 3 or 4 a.m. Um, and mind you, it was winter, so there was one time where my car didn't start, so I had to literally freaking hike it to the airport. And this
Right.
was in snow that was like at one point it was like knee deep, at one point it was like waist deep, and this is southern Utah. So, but I did it. I made my way to the airport. I showed up on
Hmm.
time. I de-iced the aircraft, got the
Right.
aircraft out of there in time. It was pretty cool. But it was such a small aircraft that it was literally like two people. So it's like you had literally the key to the airport. You had to literally turn on the lights in the airport and all that stuff and do whatever. But yeah, no, he since became a pilot for U.S. Airways and now
Take care,
American.
Fish Chozo.
Easy,
But
buddy.
hey, catch you later. But yeah, no, now he flies regional for American Airlines. Because like some cities like don't get like full service; they get limited service because they're so small, and there are laws in the books that once you hit a certain population cap, you can apply for essential air service, meaning that you're a small enough city to be able to have that subsidized by the government. Um, but at the same time, you're not big enough that your own city budget can pay for, bringing in an airline and paying them to actually do service for you. So
Mhm.
under that type of government program, they can go into small cities like St. George, Utah, or Cedar City, Utah, and it's like a little 19-seater. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a 19-seater. I have. So I mean, I've had friends in Kingman,
Mhm.
Arizona. I have
Yeah.
family in Cedar. I have family in St. George. It's
Right.
so for me it was kind of cool. Going back home, de-icing a little 19-seater in the morning. Before 5 a.m. That literally the flight is going from here. Oh, I sound like I'm in Cedar, uh, going from like Cedar to like Salt Lake, because from
Mhm.
Salt Lake it's going to go Salt Lake, Vegas, and then Vegas it's going to go to like Merced and Passaic Lake, California, and then back to Vegas, back to Cedar City, and then take off to Grand Junction, New Mexico, because that's where it starts out early in the morning. But I mean, sometimes, at the airport, we were lucky that we had an overnight aircraft. Sometimes we didn't always have an overnight aircraft, which meant that sometimes the aircraft that we were getting was starting from like uh, Grand Junction, New Mexico, and would fly um,
Right.
into yeah. So I mean, that was kind of cool. I was like I said, that was one of my first jobs, and I had a lot of mentors, and all the mentors that I had, pretty much they were always. Actually, I even had one pilot, like one pilot, tell me once that whenever you put your name on paper, your name means something. So if you sign something, you better make sure it's 100%. So
Hmm.
so so I
That's
mean
another.
yeah,
That's
and
another
that's
thing that bugs me about these weird named activists that run around trying to scream at the man. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
It's
Oh
like
yeah.
it's like whenever time I look at especially the BLM activists, right?
hmm
The top dogs. I'm looking at their names. I'm like, how much you want to bet they? How much you want to bet they changed their names to that? That doesn't sound like. That does not sound legit like their real name every single time, like Colors or Sean
Lord.
King and or what was another one?
Gosh, I'd have to think, because I
Or
mean,
let's
all
go.
those activists, you have Linda Sarsour, you have Patrice Cullors, you have Sean King, you have
Yeah. Slacktivists, as we
yeah,
call
they
them.
are, yeah, they are. Like, oh, I got to buy $1 million home next to some white people because they need to be more diverse. I'm like, okay,
Right,
wow.
right, right.
Like, if
But
that's not racist, I don't know what is.
you didn't
Uh,
invite any of your black family over there either. You didn't buy a mansion in a
I
house
said they're
made black folk.
racist. But
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So like my buddy Matt, he
Tying
became
his
a
shitty
pilot.
coats.
Yeah, I knew another guy too that I worked with, and man, he had a way with ladies, meaning he had no talent with women, but
Uh
he became a pilot too.
Uh-huh.
He became a pilot too. I was like the only dude that I knew of who working in the airport that wasn't a pilot. I wanted to more or less at that time, work on the ground level and become an airport manager, like my manager.
Right.
So the opportunity came up, and I got passed up for someone that already lived in Merced, California. So I was like, okay, well, it's not for me. So I moved on. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens. I think that's something that we also talked about, is that I think it was you who mentioned it, Wolf.
huh.
Something about your stepdad saying that
Right.
it, that you have, like, as far as jobs go, like there has to be a way up, if you will. There has to be like you just can't go into something thinking, oh, I'm going to be this. Like, you go
Yeah,
into something because you can see yourself moving up into something else, not necessarily within that company, but it literally takes you like in that course to something within that field.
You
So
you basically have to
yeah.
have a goal in mind if you want to.
you almost, yeah,
Period.
you almost inherently do. Like, like all these little Stay9 tests and SATs and stuff like that. I mean, they can only kind of point you in a direction. They can't tell you, oh yeah, you should be a professional dog walker. So I also knew some
If
guys
only
that
these
had,
tests was like Fallout 3.
right, like
Yeah.
I knew some guys too, like in high school, they went right into the military because they had no. Honestly, my personal opinion is they had no direction of where they were going to go. Like, I even have
Mm-hmm.
a cousin that went into the Navy. Like, I mean, you go into these
Same thing with my
armed,
friend. He
yeah,
was
you
in
go,
college and he went to the military.
yeah. I mean, you get a
Yeah.
full ride, whatever you want to do, if you don't end up blowing yourself up. Which I mean, I guess
and
I mean,
Hmm.
would I do it now?
even then,
Hell
you could tell which ones were there for a certain idea, but got something more, and those who were there for the commitment.
no. Yeah, I
You can
mean,
easily
Yeah.
tell which ones.
there were some dudes that I knew that literally went quote unquote to defend our country because, I mean, that's the family background they came from. Like, and I totally dug it,
Yeah.
100%. And
Hmm.
then of course you had like freaking idiots like my cousin. Oh, I want to own my own tire shop. Oh my god. I'm like,
I want.
dude. I'm like, why would you want to do something that every freaking migrant does when they get here now? It's like
Hmm.
owning your own car, owning your own body shop at this point is moot, especially if you want to do a tire shop. Oh, well, yeah, we'll do body work too, but I mean, I got to hire someone that does body work. I'm like, well, bro, you might as well just freaking learn how to do body work because if you're going to have a body shop, you might as well learn to do the work so your work is 100% and you don't got to rely on some dude you just hired off the street who sometimes shows up to work. It's like,
Yeah. Or maybe
so,
even be not even from this country.
well, yeah, well, that too. But the other thing I ended up experiencing with a lot of these dudes that I know, it's like not not that everyone has a drinking problem, but when you have your own business, you're literally at the mercy of your own employees.
Right.
So, if you're going to go ahead and start a business, you might as well be doing the business. I mean, it literally takes up your entire life, but I mean, if that's what you want to do, and that's what you're going to do. I mean, you have to uh, be able to keep a book of all your transactions. You have to make
It's a commitment.
sure, yeah, it's a commitment too. Like, I mean, you almost end up having to keep an attorney on retainer at one point to make sure you're not violating something. Because if you do, it's a hefty fine here in Vegas. Because Vegas is just as bad as California. So
Hmm.
in terms of all these regs that you need to start your own business. So,
Just be mindful of the red tape.
oh yeah, there's a lot of red tape. So,
Oh yeah.
but
You
I
gotta
mean,
be
for me,
very mindful of the red tape that you gotta go through, especially when it comes to owning a business.
I
Especially
know
if
we did
you're
this like long-winded arc, but yeah, I mean, I know guys that became firefighters. I know guys that became officers. I know guys that became investigators. I mean, if you were to know me personally, it's like, yeah, I can help you with your resume. I don't have a problem with that
Yeah.
because, I mean, if you're looking to do something, then I mean, there's still time. Especially, well, I have to go ahead and put air quotes in that because if you're like us and you're like
they're
literally
endless.
in your like early 30s, it's like if you're looking to do any type of federal job, you have to jump on it now because for a lot of these federal jobs, like the cutoff is like 35. Now, mind you, um, Orange Man Bad did one of the coolest things he could have possibly done. He actually raised the roof on Border Patrol and some of the other jobs too. Like I happen to know, like if you wanted to go into the FBI or whatever, you have to at least do it before you turn 35. Like like
Right.
you have to literally be in it. Like if your birthday literally happens the day after, or rather the day before you finally get inducted, and you don't meet that, they got to sign off a whole bunch of paperwork, and at that point they can still DQ you because the whole point with a lot of these freaking jobs, like and not so much in places like Nevada. Like in Nevada, if you want to be, a metro officer, and if you're a guy who's like early mid 40s, you could still do it. I'm not advocating that you do it now, given our social climate, but what I'm saying is that as long as you can pass the written, as long as you can pass the physical, um, you're pretty much in. Um, they've actually done away with a lot of the oral boards, which to me is mind blowing. Absolutely freaking mind blowing.
Is that a good thing?
Because yeah, well, okay, there's been like such a shortage on officers from
Right.
time to time, and the quality of officer has also like lowered.
Mm.
Like some of these like new officers that I've run into, I'm like, dude, box of rocks, and that's insulting the rocks. So,
Hmm.
but I mean, this is what happens. This is what we're getting right out of high school. We're getting these like indoctrinated like people that are literally drones, and you think you know that this country is literally steeped in racism, and it's racism everywhere, and it's who white supremacy everywhere. It's like
Yep.
yeah, so it's
It's
very different
funny.
now. It's very different now.
That's crazy how you say that too. Especially like again, it's like that's not the generation I came up from. Particular, it's like
Yeah,
I
I know.
never, I never left the schools thinking that ever. I'm
Yeah.
like,
No.
I have my concerns sometimes, but I'm like, I'm never gonna. I was never that type of person that's just gonna fall right into that. It's like you got to go through the basis of
Yeah.
what's going on this side, what's going on that side, before you fall back onto just it's simply this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And these days they fall right onto that before they even examine both sides of the coin.
Right. Well.
It's like you get right. It's like they're taught to go right into that mindset. It's like, oh, they're just racist.
Well, they're taught to be victims as well, and this is something I'd like to also chime in with. My dad was a grounding influence in that, and like
Yeah.
he would help me like keep perspective on the world, whereas everybody else, like Wolf was saying, like they just fall into this default position of
Who's your
that's
friend,
rock,
Eloise?
that's racism, or that's seasism, or however
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
phrase that. And
Yeah.
then
No, I totally get it. I totally get it.
I was like, systemic racism. Don't you mean systematic racism? I was like, whenever time I heard stuff like that, I was like, wait, don't y'all mean systematic racism?
pretty much,
But they call it systemic. I was like, oh, that's a word now.
Hmm.
That's a phrase now.
Well, I
Like.
mean, we've slowly been changing the language over time.
I was like
more like
noticing that.
this
I
changing
was like,
language is more like a
what?
distortion of the language, really.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
They just like to word it that way. Obviously, they like
Like
to
you
word
keep
a lot of things in such a way.
Yeah, you tell them you keep using that word. I do not believe it means what you think it means.
Oh, they know what it means. They just want it. They just want to make themselves look good in front of the camera by saying it.
But they make
That's
themselves
all.
look more intellectual, as it were, when they're anything but.
I bet. I bet you're there in the Job Corps now.
Oh yeah, probably getting slapped with a dose of reality too.
No, no. I think they're really controlling the Job Corps now, trying to teach them how to
Oh,
get
Well,
a job through racism, or at least through through inclusivity and equity.
through
well,
gaslighting.
here's the beauty of it. Here's the beauty of it. I mean, we have racial quotas. So I mean, if you're a POC, you're always going to get a job, even if
Hmm.
you're. And I say that I say that with a
The utmost respect.
no with a little sour taste in my stomach, or not
Right.
stomach,
Right.
sour with a little sour taste in my mouth, because um I mean
Too
I
much
think I
iron
talked
in your
about.
blood.
No, I think I talked about this. I had my EMS professor kind of pull me to the side and just basically tell me, hey, you're going to work twice as hard if you really want this, because they're going to hire a woman before they hire you, and then they're going to hire a minority before they hire you. And I'm telling you this because I can tell you this because I know you're not going to make a big stink about it, but I'm being honest with what you're wanting to do. It's like the hill is, or rather the the deck is stacked against you, and it's not in your favor. It's like,
Hmm.
and when we talk about jobs, we have to talk about affirmative action. So it lowers the quality of of
I'm gonna say right
the
now, abolish affirmative action.
well, I mean, it lowers the quality of the people that end
Fucking
up
preach it,
having to provide
Wolfie.
a service. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you have like a qualified journeyman, you know, who's applying for the same position as someone who's just barely starting out, and they got to fill a quota. Hey, they're going to fill the quota, which means that employer is now hiring a less experienced journeyman, which means they're probably going to have more problems later on, and hopefully they don't make a mistake, you know, because that translates to liability. So,
Hmm.
but I mean this is the kind of stuff that we have to deal with in 2021 too. So,
It's a shame I took too long to talk about this.
well, systemic means referring to a particular system or a particular framework. Systematic usually refers to, like a plan, like you have a systematic way of doing things, like A, B, or
Hmm.
C, all up in steps. Systemic meaning that it's something that's already ingrained or inherent in a particular mechanism. We can't undo it without undoing the whole mechanism. So, but yeah. So I mean, in terms of jobs, that's the other thing too. It's so much easier now in terms of, well, interviews have changed too, because a lot of it is not one on one, because we've become such a, can I use woke? I hate using that word because freaking Leia uses it all the time, and then everybody else uses it all the time to refer to something that's inherently socialist. But
Just call it for what it is, socialist.
like, even interviews have changed because you tend to have group interviews now,
Yep.
Oh
and
God.
and what those group interviews are, it's not to figure out who the yes man is. It's to figure who the odd man out is. That's what
Yep.
that's really about. Like when you have those group interviews and you're actually interviewing a group of people, what they're looking to see is who responds in the same way and who doesn't. And it's the one who doesn't that's who they want to cull right off the bat.
They want a scapegoat, in other words.
No, 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 no. It's they're not necessarily looking to hire the most proficient personality.
Mm-mm.
They're looking to hire the most malleable people they can get their hands on. They're looking to hire
That's what I
people
mean.
that aren't going to question anything and they're just going to go ahead and do whatever they're told. Um, those are usually the people that you can rely on not going anywhere in terms of they're going to do the job that you hire them to do. They're not going to be going to other departments. They're not going to have any goal in mind. They're there to do the job. They're not there to take
Hmm.
your job eventually. So,
Right.
yeah. But
Surprised we were able to stretch out 1 hour of this.
oh, it's one of those topics.
You'd be surprised how long things can go when you have the right topic.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Time will fly super fast depending on the topic. It's like, oh wow, it's already 4 hours. So, but I mean, and here's the thing too: when we talk about jobs, you know, when we talk about the Berlin star that shines in the night, the ghost pepper in your throat of crime, riser man stands before you. You want to make sure that you have a resume that actually goes with, who you are, if you will.
Yep.
You want to more or less be able to say, "Hey, this is me on paper. You should hire me." So, but and here's the thing I've noticed too. Um, if you're going up against a female, forget it. Doesn't matter if you're a POC or a non-POC.
Hmm.
If you're
Yep.
going up
Hmm.
against that woman, it's that woman who's going to get that job,
Hmm.
hands
Yeah.
down. And I don't know what it is. I want to say that it's just me, and I might be taking crazy pills, but that's always been my experience.
Hmm.
Anytime I've ever had to deal with like someone. Well, I'll give you a good example.
Right.
Now, um, I okay, so prior to where I am now, I was also doing some side work. So
Before you go on, I can attest to that, to what Trooper is saying right then and
yeah,
there. Because I was
Hmm.
about to try to at least try to get a job at a gym, right?
yeah, yeah,
But they end up going with the woman with the most experience, the one with the experience at a gym. Like, okay, you went with somebody who has more experience than me. Okay. Now, did I thought maybe they wanted a woman on their team? Nah. Like
well,
he,
women
you
tend to
know,
be less confrontational. I've noticed that. So
Yeah. Like men will get right in your face if you piss them off.
yeah, yeah,
and most people don't want conflict, so they
yeah,
go with the
yeah,
woman. I'll be right back. Y'all guys keep talking.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, yeah, yeah. So,
Hmm.
well, I've been talking a lot. I haven't. I haven't really, I know you've managed to pretty much say that your dad was an engineer and that, you're
Yeah,
pretty much at your gig,
yeah,
for well over a
yeah,
decade. S-
yeah.
So, I
Well,
mean, when you like, you and my brother share something in common in the fact that, you both have done your profession for well over a decade. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's one of those things where it's nice in terms of the reliability. I don't know how
yeah.
it is as far as like, is it too monotonous or not?
Well, if I can answer that, well, it can get monotonous, but they do change things up a bit just to, keep our schedules kind of going
Yeah.
because we have to rearrange things because certain things aren't getting done, so we have to, reorg some things a little, like change our schedule around, or maybe
Hmm.
something we're doing work-wise is interfering with someone else's work because it's an office job over there,
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
am. So
Hmm.
it's like for some, like as an example, I can't go and like vacuum at certain times in a certain building because someone's going to be on the phone for a lot of the time and they can't hear the other side when the vacuum is going.
Hmm.
As an example, likewise in the morning I try to like there's a certain floor I mop as well in the beginning
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
if I wait too long, everybody's gonna be walking around and there's a danger that somebody gonna probably like slip, fall, and crack their head open.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Contest to that to what Brian's saying. I had my
Breaking slip
share
and falls. Yeah.
of seeing things that people that probably my coworkers have went past or haven't
yeah.
gotten around to or probably didn't notice, and I just go immediately go right into the grind, just clean it up immediately before it becomes a problem
Oh yeah,
or
definitely.
anybody else's problem.
And something else I've even
Like,
noticed from people like other departments that you do get some of those people that do like as little work as they can get away with. Or we've even had a guy that used
oh
to
boy,
come in
Oh, yeah.
drunk.
There's always one. There's always one.
Oh yeah, we've even had a guy that used to come in drunk all the time, and he was always kind of a wise ass, and he would constantly try to tell jokes with people that were just rarely ever funny. Like I remember he liked to bust chops, so I would just give it right back to him. Like,
Oh,
oh yeah, like
yeah.
I'll give you an example. Like when I was like we were getting off of lunch, right? And I was going
Hmm.
back to the one place. It says, "Oh, just remember, it's the door on the right. The door that's office here to your left," or some nonsense. And then I tell him right to his face, "I know, I'm not stupid like you." I had everybody laughing like that.
Oh, nice.
man, you are made of stupid.
Oh yeah, I know. Balls of fucking steel on me, right?
Right?
Well, well, if you're best known for being a professional shit talker,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, it's
you can more or less get away with that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just
Yeah, I agree.
like, well, I was always like the quiet one in the work. So when people heard that from me, they were surprised. They they thought it was the greatest thing ever. you know.
Hmm.
So I'm sure you guys could probably attest to something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
Trooper already heard about this one particular employee
yeah, yeah,
that I had to deal with sometimes. He's mailed out a few times
Oh yeah.
over, over the weeks, but like man, oh man, that- like it wasn't even me he had a problem with. It was other coworkers that had problem with him, and
Right.
yeah.
of course it's the whole language barrier too. Like
Hmm.
he
Right,
barely speaks English, and whenever time he talks, it's like he doesn't even sentence or paragraph. He just
right.
goes and goes and goes and he treats it as if you understand what he's saying, but
Hmm.
he doesn't have a preposition. No, what was the other what ends after a preposition again? I can't ledger. I
Mm.
cannot ledger.
Oh,
Word escapes me too.
Yeah, there's the one thing and then there's the other thing. There's the preposition and then there's the shit. What is it called again?
Uh,
I learned this in fucking high
mm,
school
mm,
and fucking elementary.
mm,
let's see
mm,
something here.
mm.
I know, I know, I know. I suck.
No problem.
No, I wasn't gonna say it out loud, but
Preposition versus
Like like
conjunction.
you cannot tell me. That's probably what that is. No, the conjunction is the in between, actually, isn't it?
oh
You're looking
my
for the you're looking
goodness,
for start and finish is what you're telling me, right?
oh goodness.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is he don't have no beginning, but he's already talking to us in the middle, and he doesn't even
Right.
have an end. It's like, what the hell? It's like
So he
there's
doesn't
something we're
really.
missing.
So
It's
he
like there's
doesn't
something
like
we're
to get
missing,
you up to
dude.
speed, is what you're saying.
No, 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 no. It's like he thinks he's already told you one part of the story, and expects you to understand what he's talking about,
Uh huh. That
and
can
then
get
he'll
annoying.
ask you some. He'll
Well, I
ask you,
mean, are you like referring to, like a noun or a pronoun,
nah.
or
I'm
or,
saying
or like a gerund or noun clause, or is he just saying, "Oh, yeah, yesterday"? And it's like, "Okay,
in
what?"
short, he don't know how to start a conversation proper,
Oh,
Pretty much. I could see that being annoying.
and he's from the
all I'm gonna say
Philippines.
is this. All I'm gonna say is this. When you start having an influx of people coming in from other countries
Hmm.
that don't necessarily have the same standards in terms of education, and I'm not saying our education system is like any better. I mean, ours is crap compared to some of the other countries. But you are going to get a disconnect in communication, and you get that everywhere you go. So it's almost like having to decipher what a person is saying in live time, which I got very good at doing because I had to. Because given what I was doing, it's like I kind of have to kind of figure everything out really fast.
Right.
So, but I get it. It sucks. But
Now, what's
Well,
funny is that you tell him to go get, like, he's been working the job for like pretty much going on 2 years, right,
right, right.
or
right.
three, and you'll tell him to go get this from go get this where. Okay, take
From the same place it was last time.
what that
Said from the same place where it was last time. I can already
or
see her.
or um
I can already
or
see that going through your head because that would
or
go through
like
my head.
go go with the boss to do this where um gra-
That
grab
would drive me
supplies
nuts.
from.
I would.
I'm not trying to dox myself. That's why I'm trying to be trying
Oh,
sound vague
say
and shit
wolf.
like that.
Say wolf.
Yeah,
Right.
grab the wolf from storage. Where?
Yeah.
Bitch, the storage is right in the
Storage.
middle.
Storage. Even I know this.
He, he would kill. He would kill. Look, everybody would get pissed off with him when every time he asked where.
Mm-mm.
Uh-huh.
Every single time he would say where.
I think he's not a
I'm
good
like,
That would drive me nuts. That would
that's
drive
probably
me nuts.
there's some truth to that, Brian.
Hmm.
And the way how he acts around the women, that would make us feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. A bit of a pervert.
Prevert. Eh,
Yeah, there's some truth to that too.
Hmm.
I
be
mean,
like, hey, 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 hey,
I mean,
hey, hey.
You
I don't want to I don't want to tread into that because again, it's like you're gonna get that question of, well, why aren't you doing something about that? You should speak up about that.
The problem with trying
I'm
to
like,
speak up about that is that it can cause more drama than you really need.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, or at least causing a stank when you shouldn't be.
Yeah, you try to keep a professionalism about that, and going around starting arguments, especially over social issues, that's not really professional at all. You leave that stuff
Yeah,
at
yeah.
home.
And what's really funny is that it's now become almost norm in the workplace. Like
It
the
shouldn't be.
employers have literally become these like virtue signaling you know uh what would you call them, white knight savior types, that now
Right.
we have to go ahead and be all inclusive for you because we know better than you. And
It's like the guilty white person syndrome.
oh yeah, that too. Yeah, you get a lot of that now. That's all I'm going to say about that, but yeah, you get a lot of that now.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
saying, like, you saying that when this guy is like literally just approaching women in such a way that's like making them feel uncomfortable, where I have to step in sometimes, like, bro, get away from her like that.
Hmm.
Why you invading her personal space? Move.
Oh,
And
Right.
don't get And don't even get me started when every time he would stand still and be in your way, like a cow in the road.
Oh yeah.
Well, and
Like
that's
you,
the thing too. That's the thing too. When you just work a generic job, and I'm just gonna say generic job because we don't know what job it is that you know we don't know what job we're talking about. We're just talking jobs in general. That's the other thing too is you have to deal with a whole different subset of personalities, and some of those personalities are not necessarily the smartest because again, it's just
Tell me
generic
about
work.
it.
Yeah, it all comes down to the hiring process, and if the person who's doing the hiring is great at what they do. So,
Right.
but and the other thing too, it's like while human resources, if you will, might go ahead and set up all the interviews and you interview with them and all that, and they might recommend you to that department that you're applying for.
Yeah.
It could be once you interview for that department, like they may not even the person who actually is doing the essential hiring might not even like you. So I mean, human resources might recommend you, hey, it's great, and in what I'm getting at is this: is some employers are weird that in you have to go through at least 2 or 3 interviews before you know whether you get the job. Like especially here in Vegas, when you're going through the casinos, you go through this generic hiring process through human resources, right?
Yeah.
And then you're not hired yet. That just means that
Mm.
you passed their, you know, you're you're the type of person we may be looking for. I'm not saying that you're a yes man or that you're, this insipid person that has no brain of his own, but clearly, you fit in well with the rest of the sheet. So sometimes you'll interview with the, supervisor that's there, and then they refer you to the department director, and
Right.
then you'll know. I've never had, and I'm going to be upfront about it. I've never had those situations because I've always bypassed a lot of that stuff. I always knew someone,
Yeah.
and even if I didn't know someone, sometimes like the hiring process was just sped up for me because they liked who I was. So it was one of these things where I didn't have to do a lot of these, flaming hoops, if you will.
Mhm.
hmm
And when I say
Yeah.
flaming hoops, I refer to, if you've ever been to a circus or whatnot,
hmm
sometimes they would have like this little circus gag where a clown had a whole bunch of like little trained mini poodles and min pins and stuff like that, and had them do little tricks. Well, one of the tricks that I saw as a kid was a mini poodle jumping through a flaming hoop.
Yeah.
And they were all spray painted pink, and all that stuff. But again,
Nah,
they,
nah, nah,
that was
nah,
that
nah,
was like
nah,
Vegas. Like,
nah,
your
nah,
parents would
nah,
take you to
nah,
circus and you saw free circus acts, So, and
Yeah.
that was the shtick for that particular hotel, and casinos have never really been family friendly up till recently when they figured, hey, we can get more money out of the 4-person household than we can out of the single household when they started corporatizing. When the mob ran Vegas, it ran smoothly. Like
nah.
like
Right.
now now I guess the mob is now corporatism. So now there's a fee for this, there's a fee for that. I know anyone who's in chat world, I posted something on MeWe, and it was a TikTok. Uh, some dude actually got upset that he had a C19 fee on his receipt.
Oof.
Yeah, a lot of these businesses are doing it. Like, and usually it's the casinos that are doing it. Oh, well, we have to charge you a fee because, you know, we have to find a way to monetize this situation. But, they'll say it's under
Right.
the pretext of, oh, it's a sanitation fee, yada yada yada, all this stuff. But I mean, at the very end of the day, it's just like when the casino started charging resort fees. It was just another way to get more money out of you for services you weren't going to use. So,
No. Yeah. Sounds a lot like the. Sounds like a lot like the healthcare system in a way.
oh yeah, well that was the thing too. Under 45, he started to enact laws where there would be a little bit more transparency in terms of you saw how much everything was costing you, itemized. You know,
Right.
I don't know what's happened since then, because since we got Joe Tato, things have
Yeah.
literally, have literally gone sideways. I mean, look at where we're
Hmm.
at. It's like,
Oh, I see.
Yep.
so, what was it? The last poll he had a 39% approval, and that's still spiraling downward. So,
Hmm.
you know, mainstream news isn't going to talk about that. They don't want to talk about that.
No.
They don't want to talk about our election integrity or lack thereof, because now that it's starting to come out of Arizona, it's coming out that it was very definite, not 100%, secure, as these, news outlets led everyone to believe. So,
Right.
Yeah. Right.
but nothing is ever
Spiked
100%.
overnight like that.
That's my problem. Nothing is ever 100%. So,
There's always a flaw somewhere.
well, they teach you this in freaking, in freaking math class. Nothing is ever 100%. Like,
Exactly.
there's like, you can't have 100%. 100% is near impossible unless it's numeric. And even then, it's, we're talking, algebraic, equations. We're not talking about, probability and statistics.
Hmm.
It's like, to pretty much say we're going to have 100% people, juiced and jabbed, that's near impossible. I mean, how many people do you have, how many groups do you have to, go through to get 100%? No one's talking about, making sure the homeless get 100% jabbed, because that's a near impossible population to track. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I've dealt with homelessness. A lot of these dudes are transient. They literally they live somewhere for a few weeks and they go to another state.
Yep.
Hmm.
It's hard to track these dudes down. Like, I dealt with one dude who he, he had, MPD, and, you know in going through, in
Tell us what's MPD for the people in the back.
multiple personality disorder.
There you go.
Oh,
So he was his own wife. Is
yikes. That's
is
like
what I
another
came
Norman
I
Bates there.
I came to find that out through the interview. But um, what I'm getting at is, I asked permission. Hey, you have all this stuff here. Again, may I look at it? Because you're not going to just rifle through all that stuff. Whatever. I mean, you can, but it's best that you don't. So, it's, and come to find out, he's already off of his medication. So, he's in that particular situation because he's not on his medication. That's a big problem, and that tends to be a big problem here in Vegas too. We have a large
Hmm.
homeless problem. A good chunk of that are necessarily people that may have some form of mental illness or whatnot through no fault of their
Mental
own.
illness awareness, my ass.
Right.
So, I mean, we also have homeless vets too. So,
Yep.
I
Hmm.
mean that's the thing. It's like, these men come back from wherever it is, that they come back from, and sometimes they just can't function anymore. They can't function in normal society, because normal society is an illusion, just like anything else. We're always 3 days away from an extinction level event. We'd like to think that everything is always safe and secure, and everything is always, everything is going to continue. But, some people go to these countries and experience war, and they know there's more out there than the general population is told. Um, in terms of mental illness, it's, I dated someone, who was bipolar, and who intentionally
Yikes.
and who
Oh, boy.
intentionally went off their medication.
I do not envy you there.
No, no, I didn't either. I didn't either. I didn't know this. I found this out later on, throughout the relationship, that was being kept. Like, that was being kept from me. It's like I don't mind. I you you know you are the person that I met, ideally, and then come to find out, the person that I met was literally a pill bottle. But what I'm getting at is, it's so, my whole point is, when it comes to homelessness, and you have mental disorders, there's a bunch of different reasons why they come off their medication. The main one is they can't afford it
Yep.
yet.
Right.
So yeah, the hospital can fill, medication for 30 days or whatnot. And you can choose to go find these social programs that will, get you back on your feet so you can interview and put you back into the workforce and all that stuff. But most people, that's too much work. And for too much people, or rather for too many, I mean, they're mentally broken as it is. So I mean, again, going back to the 100%, 100% is near impossible. And and what about the birth population? You know,
Oh boy.
you know, you mean to tell me that we're going to go ahead and infect them with something that we don't necessarily have the efficacy on?
May as well
So
be injecting them with T virus at this point.
might as well. So you know we talk about jobs and stuff like that, and these are the type of topics that tend to happen. When we talk about jobs, we have to talk about employers. So
Yeah, well, they goes hand in
Exactly.
hand.
they go hand in hand. So, I mean, my advice to chat world is if you're in the 9 to 5, you need to get into a trade job, or you need to go back to your college and get your degree and get out of your 9 to 5, because you need to have something that you can do outside of 9 to 5 work, outside of, oh, well, I work at a retail store. You need to get out of that. You need to get out of that mindset. That mindset is garbage. You
Hmm.
either need to become an electrician, a welder, something you can do with your own hands that you can license yourself on, and that you can, start your own business. That tends to happen a lot in this town too. In Vegas, you see a lot of it.
Do what Magic Mike did.
Like,
Yep.
no, I mean, you got a lot of drywallers that are literally independent. I mean, they're licensed and everything, but it's literally a one person company. So, with drywallers, you got tilers, you got painters. Because I mean, right now I'm dealing with, with some construction situation in my place. So, and in trying to find actual qualified people to do what I needed them to do, I had to kind of go through a few people. So, the casinos have it easier because usually the bigger contractors almost inclusively just keep taking work from casinos. They hardly ever deal with residential work at all. Uh, the contractors that do are literally the one person dude with the van who just had his business screen printed on the side of the van, and it's like he's insured up to X amount, because the state says, hey, you got to be insured up to X amount, and you can only trust that he does decent work. That's it. That's it.
Yep.
so so do that. Because I mean, if you're gonna literally be at the mercy of an employer, then they're gonna more or less tell you, "Hey, we want you to get poked," and you basically have the choice of either sticking to your guns and be a man in principle and stick to your belief, and if that means you're not gonna get poked, then you need to not get poked, but you need to be able to have some way to make money on the side, whether it's through eBay transactions, whether it's through social media, whether that be stuff like YouTube, Twitch, Trovo, DLive, any of that stuff. So I find it hard to believe that people say um, there's there's a shortage of work. Well, now in 2021 there isn't a shortage of work. If anything, there's a preponderance of work. There's a lot of work to be had. So, and that's the thing too. Um, Especially you ladies out in chat world, there's nothing that says you can't become a hairstylist. So I mean, if we had the zombie apocalypse tomorrow, we still need ladies who know how to cut hair.
Yep.
So I mean, again, it's that's the difference between 9 to 5 and a trade job. A
Yep.
trade is something that you're known.
Good luck being a masseuse.
Yep.
Yeah. A masseuse, that's not gonna go far. So
Yeah. My stepmom
You,
always says the world needs butchers.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So you always need a butcher. You always need someone who cuts hair. So you always need a barber. You always need welders. You need electricians. You need plumbers. Uh, Truckers are specialty, more or less. I mean, you are driving. I mean, that's something that is its own unique field, but let's say, things go, bottom up. Are we
Hmm.
going to need truckers? I'm not sure. I don't know. So, unless you own your own semi, then yeah. So,
I'm surprised you could still be a hooker this era.
oh, there we'll never have a shortage of hookers. Um, it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens here in Nevada because, as far as the ranches go, I don't know if the madams are going to be mandating
Hmm.
their independent contractors to be poked. I mean, they get poked all the time, but I mean, medically poked. So,
Hmm.
so because that's a thing too. I mean, the world's oldest profession. I mean, there's always money to be made. So,
Yep.
And a lot of sexual frustration to be released.
oh yeah, especially during COVID.
Yep.
But
I'm just saying, I'm surprised with the way how things was with in 2020, where everybody did not want to interact at all. You
Yeah.
oh,
know,
oh, please, please.
but I guess web cameras are a thing still. You know.
Well, OnlyFans got really popular, and then you got to remember that call girls were still doing in calls and out calls. So
Yep.
they just do. I mean, they're look
There's a will, there's a way.
if you
Yep.
want an itch, you can get it scratched, especially in Nevada. So I mean, they're never out of work. They are never out of work. I never once saw a freaking working girl be out of work. So
Even at 64 years old.
no, at that time, at that point, you become a madam. So
Oh yeah.
like you know enough Johns, and know enough about the business and the laws that you set up your own ranch, or you take over for a madam that passed away. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
or sometimes that ranch gets passed down through the family, and then someone doesn't want to deal with it, so they hire one of the girls to take it over, or usually the most senior girl that knows the business already, that doesn't necessarily run the numbers, but knows the dude that runs the numbers, knows what needs to be done, because I mean, they're there all the time. So I mean, it's stuff we don't talk about, publicly. I mean, we don't acknowledge the professional ranches, but I mean, it's when we talk about jobs, that's a job. So,
Yep.
Right. No matter how much you want to
well, here's the
call
thing
it
too.
otherwise, it's like the whole, they like to say sex work is real work.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. It is. Here's the thing. Like,
I'm inclined to agree
especially in
because
this town. Especially in this town, we have a lot of freaking people that drop money, like when they come to gamble. So, it's not just Joe Schmuck and his two kids, who happens to sneak away from his wife and gets another room and does whatever with some other, girl, and then you know,
cuckoo.
then they go to then they go to the front desk and demand that they get some compensation because the working girl ran off with the dude's wallet
Yep.
that just happened to have $700 or $800 in it.
Heh.
And they're like, oh well, if you want to file a report, we can go ahead and call the Metropolitan Police Department. No, 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 that's fine. Yeah, because they don't want that shit coming back to them, or them getting a letter in the mail saying, oh, by the way, boom, 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 here's a follow up for your theft case. And most oftentimes they don't want to admit to soliciting a prostitute. You can't do that in Las Vegas.
Let alone their
Prostitution
wives
is
finding out.
illegal in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's illegal in Clark County.
Yep.
But the moment you leave Clark County, the rest of the state, you know, that's why there's ranches outside of Clark County. You go to those places. You go to those places
Hmm.
that are licensed and operated. If you're going to get yourself if you're going to get yourself a street urchin, then that's all you, man. If you get trick rolled, don't come to me crying that you got trick rolled.
Right.
It's like, dude, I have no sympathy for you because you brought them to your room.
Mm-hmm.
They slipped something in your drink. You passed
Mm-hmm.
out. They wiped you clean. They freaking even took your freaking gold teeth out your mouth. I mean, they wiped you clean. Don't come to me crying. Like, don't come to me crying. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Like,
you
I'm like,
it,
I hope it was worth it. I hope it was worth the 2 minutes that you were like aware before you freaking got knocked out. So,
it's like the same thing as like I tend to view the same way in most cases where it's people with that mindset of, oh, it could never happen to me, you know. And
yeah,
you've seen so many cases and so many cases and so many cases of people getting either getting screwed over or messed over, women being messed around,
Yep.
or even put in a position where they thought they couldn't say no, they could have at any
yeah.
given time. Not trying to come off as victim blaming at all, but like at some point, sometimes the victims have to take responsibility for themselves as
Well,
well.
they do. And some of these girls, they're not like.
And some victims need to learn from other victims as well.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, there's a particular unit, that deals with this kind of stuff. Because I mean, some of these girls do go into it, willingly, but I mean, they're already messed up in their head. It's like they've either been abused or they were molested, most oftentimes by either a family member
Right.
or an extended
Right.
family member. And then in some cases, they met Tyrone and Tyrone got them hooked on smack.
Hmm.
Mind you, before that they were an okay person. They showed up to work on time. They didn't have any record or whatnot, but somehow they got mixed up with this dude, and this dude, oh hey, just try this for me, baby, just this one time. Just, you love me, baby. And then
Naivety is a bitch.
and
Yep.
you get them hooked on smack, and then it's about you want another freaking hit, then you gotta make your 1500 and come back, and then you'll get your hit. I mean, it's I hate to put it that way, but I mean, there are situations like that. So, and I mean, you also have hustlers too,
Don't you just love it when drug dealers make the best businessmen
right?
than the actual businessmen that are
And
supposed to be running a
that's
business?
just at the street level. I mean, you do have your professional escorts too. Um, like those honestly, those in my experience, you deal less with than you do the street level stuff.
Right.
With escorts, it's gosh, it can be dicey. It could be something where you know John hires the escort. John has a cardiac event. It's and the escort notifies the hotel or EMS or whatnot, but they don't want to be there. But they're the only witness, so it gets weird. They don't want to let on that they're an escort, and then through further, investigation, either on the behalf of the hotel or on behalf of law enforcement, all this stuff starts to come out, and then you have to try to, find a number for an emergency number we can call. Hey, is this so and so? Yeah,
Yeah.
we need you to come down. Well, what happened to my husband? Well, we can't talk about that over the phone. We need to come down, and so it becomes this whole thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I was saying, here in the hotels, you got people that drop millions, either on Pygal or poker and stuff like that. And yeah, they're gonna bring in their own. They're gonna bring in their own girls sometimes, or sometimes they have people that go and find these other people. Again, it's not supposed to happen, but it does. You know, you know.
They just know how to cheat the system,
Well,
or at least
I wouldn't
loop
necessarily
around
call
it.
it. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it cheating the system, but these are people that more or less feel like the law does not apply to them. It's and I hate to say that it's a two-tier system, but realistically, it's what it feels like most oftentimes is that it is a two-tier system.
Right.
So,
Welcome to Nevada, everybody.
right,
Yep.
Well, Cali is not any better. I mean,
Nope.
Cali
Nope.
still has its own, you know, working girls, and I'm pretty sure they're in Jersey as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you'd be hard pressed to find not one used condom on the ground here,
oh
especially
goodness,
here in Chula.
oh goodness, oh
Then again, Chula's like
goodness.
we're pretty much close to the fucking border, so of course we're gonna.
Oh, that's even worse, dude.
It's like all you gotta
Oh
do
yeah.
is just like from my neck of the woods, all you gotta do is take a freeway all the way towards to Tijuana.
Yeah.
That's
So
all
there's
you need.
crime.
There's even a bus that can
Crime
take your
reports.
ass
Yeah.
there. There is a bus here that there's two buses that you could take to get to Tijuana.
That's terrible. That's terrible because if you can sneak across, you can just
Hmm.
take that bus. You can just literally
I'm
get
just
on
saying,
that
it's like it
bus.
takes you at least.
You
I
can sneak
once,
on there because isn't that the one where you like buy your ticket beforehand and then
I
you get
think
on the
so, but
bus
I'm just
or you get
saying,
on the shuttle or
like
whatnot?
I was about to take a meat processing job, right? Like where you package some
Hmm.
meat and everything. And I just realized, as I'm traveling towards that job, I'm seeing the border of freaking Tijuana. I was like, damn, that's all you need to do to at least get to the border of Tijuana is just take a bus. It's like I don't want to be around here at all. Like that's why it's like
Yeah.
I had two choices between jobs, and this is how I got the hotel job instead. Because like the more I saw that shit, I was like, I don't want to be around here at all.
Right, right.
Last it's like I know it's like the business area too, and I was pretty much like I walked around it a few times just to get to a bus stop, right? And I'm just
Right.
like, bro, as good as this as good looking as this business district, it looked like somebody could jump out at me and either
Hmm.
kidnap me or stab me if I like. I'm glad I'm working mornings at this in this area and while
Oh yeah.
transiting. It's
Hmm.
like, dude, I don't want to be around here. Let me like soon as the opportunity knocked about the hotel job, I was like, okay, I'll take that one. I didn't even call the meat processing job back at all. I was like screw it. Just don't just
Oh
Oh,
don't go.
man,
Just don't
that
um,
go.
is cold.
that would be good work, but
It
uh,
would be, but it's like at in my current status, while I'm still like working on getting my driver's license, I'm like I can't risk that. I didn't even like I said I didn't call them back.
um,
The department that hired me into that spot, I didn't call them back. It's like I just
the
I
wo-
took the
yeah,
hotel job
yeah.
and never got a call from them saying, hey, why haven't you come to work?
That's crazy. I've never had that. Well, actually, no, 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 no. I
Yeah.
have. I
And
think
I ain't looked back since either. I haven't looked back
I ended up.
since either.
Yeah, no. I ended up having to train someone, and apparently it's why. It's subsequently why I ended up not being a trainer. Apparently they felt too pressured, I guess. But
That's a
I'm
laugh.
like, but I'm like, you've already gone through your initial training, you've passed everything, you're with me now, so let's just go 100%. And if
Right.
you don't feel comfortable, let me know. But, boom, sink or swim. So, or at least pretend you know how to swim so I can at least say, at least he's trying, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Next, next day, they didn't even show up for work. Said that it was too much for them. I was like, really? I'm like,
And
oh,
what's the job they supposed to, the guy do? The only job that they have to do.
well, dude, it's like no one's asking you to do the freaking world, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you went through your initial training, right? You
Mm-hmm.
they tested you out, you passed everything. Now all I'm asking you to do is use your brain. Like
Yep.
I'm not gonna hold your hand throughout the entire process. It's like I want I want to see how much you know, so
Mm-hmm.
I can
How
say,
much you learn too.
well,
Yep.
yeah, because I need to be able to say, hey, this dude is not 100%. Like, he's going to need additional training. I mean, he'll turn out. He'll definitely turn out, but he's going to need additional training. He's going to probably need an extra month, 2 months. It's like, but I mean, if you're going in there, if you're going into any job thinking that you're going to be able to just fake it till you make it, especially
Mm-mm.
if it's a job where you need to know what you're doing, like right on the spot, or else someone else is going to get hurt. So,
Yeah, safe OSHA compliance, man. Come
Yeah.
on.
well, yeah, that too. Yeah, that too. So, but
I'm just saying, like that's where I really draw a line on the hiring process, especially when it comes to the hiring of merit, which
yeah,
they don't do. We
they
know
don't do.
now
They
it's
do not do. They do not do. Like, I can tell you, like, my dad, um, my dad he was a chef. Um, he even became a head chef. It was this really cool Italian ristorante, if you will. Ristorante. But so, and this was in California or whatnot. He had that job, and he did it very well. Uh, it's one of those jobs where he did more than what he had originally been hired to do. Like, not only was he actually in charge, it's weird because when you get to that particular level, when we're talking about food and stuff like that, you think all these people do is cook.
Right.
Well, no, no. I mean, my dad was in charge of making sure that,
You gotta
um,
make sure it's fresh for one thing.
well, yeah, like he had to, like, every day, like 2 hours prior to that place like opening, he had to go through all the food, uh, check the expiration on everything, because the number one thing was, in terms of ordering, was not having too much spoilage, because any spoilage is money lost,
Yep.
which
yep.
means you have to change that order,
You can't
and
sell
you
what
can't be
people can't
changing it
eat.
all, and you can't be changing it all the time because you only have a certain dollar amount to work with. So,
Exactly.
Yep.
so, and you're given a fixed budget by the owner. Hey, I need you to be able to do this with what we have. So he had to go through checking the expiration. He had to go ahead and do all the ordering. Like, I think if I remember right, he said he had to have at least his orders ready a week out. Like, he had to already know a week out what was coming on that next truck. So he did all that. And then on top of that, he had to train other chefs under him. Like, some of these dudes were professional and some of them were just right out of the street. So,
Hmm.
Yep.
like, my dad liked things done a certain way. Like, in terms of like the food prep and everything. Like, he had like the system down enough to where he wanted it done a certain way. So he had to make sure that when he wasn't there, that it was done in the same fashion. So when he came back,
Well-oiled
he
machine.
yeah, he didn't have to worry about, where's all the missing food. But
Yep.
at the same time, it's
Or
like,
anything behind.
yeah, at the same time, he also had to sit there and write up the menu. So,
That's what you gotta go through with your business, especially if you're owning your own business.
right? So, I mean,
Yep.
so yeah, so I mean, he had to sit there and he had to do the menus. He had to pretty much plan out.
Treat your business as the same way how you treat your garden.
Well, yeah, and
Yep.
yeah, and that was the thing too. He used to tell me stories about having to pretty much, when he had a minute, he always had to have a minute, but he would go out and he would, talk with the clientele. Like, he knew most of the clientele by name. Like it's one of these things. Like, he had regulars. Like, and those are the people that,
Hmm.
like, you have regulars and you have people that are just kind of going through. So for the people that are just coming through, you want to sit there and kind of chat with your regulars anyway, because that may entice them to come back, and then that person becomes a regular. See how that works?
Yep.
Yep.
So, and it's not so much that you're trying to shake them down for money. It's the whole point is that you're providing a service the entire time. So, and you get to know these people, like, and these people can always lead to other opportunities. Um, but at the same
It's not what
time,
you know, it's who you know.
yeah, at the same time, he was telling me a story about he had a food critic, which is kind of funny now because you don't really hear about food critics anymore. Like
Hmm.
he had a
What
food
you mean,
critic
like the
come through there.
Yelpers and such?
Well, the people that like literally come through and sample the menu and then read an article.
Uh huh.
So,
Duh.
but it was pretty much uh, and this was before he became head chef. He told me this story. This was like what actually led up to it. Um, but I guess the dude had come back to order something. Like it was one of these days where my dad had to pretty much kind of sub in the restaurant or whatnot. And the dude had come back, and I guess there was like a glowing review or whatnot. And I guess my dad had actually made his food, and that's actually what got reviewed. So he came back, ordered something similar, pitched a freaking fit because it didn't taste anything like what he had prior. I think he was raising hell. Like it's really funny when you talk to these people, these like food reviewers and critics and stuff like that, because I mean it's one of these things where you think they just be okay with what they get. Well, I mean when you do that for a living, you're used to being served a certain way and blah 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 and yak yak yak. You're used to being catered to and all that. So I guess the owner actually had to come out and he was like, "I want to see your chef," blah 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 blah. So I guess the owner brought my dad out and brought the chef out. I forgot what the chef's name was, and he was like, "Which one of you made my freaking food the last time?" My dad was like, "Oh, that was me," because my dad had remembered that this was the dude that came through here, and he had mentioned it to the owner. Hey, I think we just had one of the dudes from the local newspapers come through here. I think because he was very particular about what he wanted, and we got like from the hostess got the weird vibe that he was there to review the food.
Mm.
So then he goes, and who made this effing plate? And so the chef actually is like, well, I just made that plate. And the dude was like, this tastes like bleep. I want that guy to make my food. So and I
Well,
guess I guess
shit.
I guess the owner had already had problems with that particular chef because he was wanting more money, and he was messing stuff up, and he was being lax with everything, and literally he was having my dad do all the other stuff for him, and he was just showing up whenever he was showing up. So this is what I'm talking about. If you have an employee that has like a problem, like a alcohol abuse problem, where they may or may not show up to work. Sometimes they're sober, sometimes they're not sober. So either way, that chef, made his way out, and that's how my dad ended up taking over that restaurant. But he came out here, and this is why I bring this up. I know it's a long tangent to get to where I was going. Out
It's
here,
we're all for it. We
Oh
tangent
yeah.
all day, every
well,
day,
what I was gonna say, it's
almost every
different
day.
out
Tuesdays
here
and Thursdays.
What
because
isn't a
on
tangent
the
these days?
well, because on a freaking casino, on a casino level, they now want to hire these people that have like these outrageous like um, degrees and certificates from these chef schools and stuff, right? And
Right.
it's like you can do all that, but you end up dropping so much freaking money in the process. Like I actually knew a chick whose boyfriend was going to Cordon Bleu to be a chef out here, and it's like subsequently my dad came out here because you know, jobs were plenty out here, in Las Vegas back in the day, and if you could get with a casino, they would pay you really well because I mean, you had restaurants within those casinos. So, and you kind of see it now where you see like Wolfgang Puck's Trattoria del Lupo or whatever, and literally it's just their name. The casino literally paying for that name, and it's like a whole bunch of chefs that they hire, and there's a particular way that you need to go ahead and cook the food and whatnot, and you just have to follow that
Mm.
recipe plan, and anyone can do it as long as that person is competent enough. But you don't hear about merit based work anymore, and how my dad became in the 80s, how he ended up becoming a chef was through merit. And he came out here and he had a very difficult time at the beginning. He had a very difficult time convincing people that he was very competent because he only had that one small mom and pop chain, you know, on his resume. So, things have changed in 2021. It's one of these things where, and I use this as a trade, because again, trade work now, it's very different. We've moved away from, employees that put in the effort should be promoted. Now it's who has the 2-year paper. So
Or who has tits on their chest.
that too. A woman's always going to be hired. I don't care what anyone says. If you're going up
Hmm.
against a woman, they're going to hire the woman. They just start.
No win.
So
No
uh,
win situation there. No easier way. No easier way of saying it. It's the hard truth for many. And God forbid the woman's of a different race and color too, or even then, like majority of the time they're gonna hire the white woman before they even hire the black woman too.
yeah,
They're the market. They're pretty much the more marketable candidate, only based only on the fact that they're woman, and
yeah,
and
yeah,
and, and they're the ones that, truth be told, the white woman is the one that's screeching the most, way before the black woman even starts screeching, or the Latina
yeah.
at
Right.
all. And black and Latinas are always or were notoriously known for screeching the loudest. Not so much this time in this day and age. It's more that the white women are screeching the loudest, and their mic is just as big. Is way bigger than the minority women of
Right.
today.
Right.
I mean, ever notice that they always keep talking up for the black and Latino way more so than the black and Latino.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how they really. It's like they like to think that they're somehow connected to these women. Hey, oh wait, Eloise has been blowing up. Hey, Eloise.
White woman.
Right. Right.
Yeah, Eloise is in the chat there.
I, I'm I'm not even. I'm not even. So
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
Woman.
That's
Yeah.
basically
Pretty Woman.
yeah.
Pretty
And
woman, go me, pretty
you hardly
woman.
ever. Yeah, there's truth to that. You hardly ever see them. Hire. It'd be crazy if they do have a heavy set woman on their team. But even
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
like majority of the time when it comes to the heavy set women, those ones do put in the work too,
Yeah.
because they don't make their heavy setness the thing of their what drives them to work.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, but then again, I'm talking about well-rounded women here, adult women that knows what they're capable of and knows what they're not capable of.
Right.
Women like Leia, for example. You know, Le-
Right.
Leia's from the generation that she worked her ass off to get to where she was, and
Mhm.
she more often than not she was in there because of somebody she knew,
Mhm.
or
Right.
she was in there because someone wanted to change the game up. Not for the sake of, oh, we have too much of this, we need to change this.
Right.
More of, let's try to experiment with this. She From what she told me in the history of her being here when she started off, that was her life, and that's how the system used to work back then. Like
Mhm.
things like when we had John Stewart as a
Right.
Green Lantern, or Steel as one of the next Supermen during the random Superman arcs, right?
Mhm.
This is what those were, like, as Bob Chapek had once said about Shang-Chi, an experiment. Where
Oh,
where whereas
jeez.
where he uses that in loosest terms. No, the John Stewarts, the John Henry Irons, the Cassandra Canes,
Right.
and Kate Canes were the real legitimate experiment, where we wanted to try something new for a change, but we're not going to change the status quota. Did I say that right? Status quo.
Mhm.
It's like you're trying something new without. That's basically where we used to be at back then. We were trying something new without the need to change the status quo.
Right.
Like it
Right.
would, or at least not hurting the status quo, which is not necessarily white superheroes or white employees all the time. It's more of we want people of any generation, any background to get up there and try their metal if they're putting in the effort to get up here. Like you're doing your diligence to get up here, right? Your
Right.
diligence to get like because say for instance, what if you were aspired to be a truck driver? And I'm not saying that's like the one thing to aspire to to work, right? But like, what if that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? And you were say inspired by your driver dad, who's retired
Yeah.
now, or if your
Right.
truck driving business was a family business, you want to keep that alive, but you're inspired because of your dad,
Right.
Mhm.
nonetheless, and you want to try your mental to be the best truck driver, or say for instance you want to get into the fashion biz and you're a dude, right? And you want to sew up all those very extravagant outfits, and let's just say you were inspired by your mother to do that, and you did the work, you did
And
the
by your
artwork,
mom.
Right.
right, you know the fabrics, you know the ink to color the fabrics and all that stuff,
Right.
the meticulousness to make that outfit instead of just slapping trash on like they did in Cruella, which was funny. Like that, this is
Yeah.
this is everybody. This is their idea of what fashion is. You see one extravagant outfit, and that's what you think that's the fashion industry. No, 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 Sonny Jim. That's not how that works.
The
I'm
Nope.
not
name's
even.
Cruella.
There's a lot of plain
I
looking
was like,
outfits too in that
What'd you say,
industry.
Trooper?
the name's Cruella. I was like, bitch, shut up.
Oh
I
yeah.
know, right? I'm like, bruh,
I was like,
like there's.
you were okay in Spider-Man 2, and that was about it. Or in
Mm,
the Amazing Spider-Man.
look, I'm not gonna go ahead and slight
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone for doing that movie unless she start opening her mouth again. You know what I'm
Emma
saying?
Stone
And
face,
even
right?
then, no, I'm just saying like if she start throwing out that we need more women in these type of
We need
spaces,
more women.
that, then
More
then I'm
women.
then I'm gonna throw mud in her eye. But like as far
Oh
as like
yeah.
her acting out Cruella like that, that's just a job that she was given. So she did what she did, right? I'm not just gonna
Right.
go.
All,
I'm not
all right, Rocketeers, Space Cadets, and recruits. We are at 2 hours. Welcome to the fun stream. Let's talk about
right,
fun stuff
Right.
rather
right.
than job stuff. I don't
Shit,
want to talk
shit.
about jobs. Get a job. Get a
Yeah,
job.
that's right.
That's all
Good
I got.
job.
That's all I got for you people. Get a job.
Have a resume ready.
If you
Yeah.
need a resume, hit
Actually,
me up.
before we
Hit me up.
get away from the topic, what kind of tips would you give to people in the job interview?
You can PayPal.me. Contact me through MeWe, and I'll hook you up with a resume. It'll be nice. You know, buy me a cup of coffee. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I was like, what kind of tips could you give anybody? Any quick tips to for people to keep in mind when they go into the interview?
Yeah, quit your boring job. One, quit your boring
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
You need to figure out what your skill set is. Two, you need to figure out if you need a trade or if you need a 2-year degree. And then if you have already gone through all that and you're going through a job interview, best foot forward means, and I hate to say it because a lot of people just think if they just show up by virtue, they're going to get hired. No, you need
Mm-mm.
to be dressed like you're going to court. So
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
your shirt needs to be freaking pressed. Best thing I can recommend is
Take off
where
that ACDC shirt.
Yep.
you need to more or less wear like a wool jumper, a wool pullover, something. It's like if you
Clean
wear
your hair.
if you wear if you wear like a pullover or a sweater, it shows that you're a warm person. I don't care if it's 100 degrees inside. You're going into air conditioning. Um,
Yep.
Something that Ma
Make sure
Pachoy
your
had
pants
once
are
said.
pleated. Make sure your pants are fucking pleated and pressed. Like my whole point is this, and that your
Go in
shoes
the
are
black
clean.
slacks.
My whole point is shine your damn shoes. My whole point is this. It's
Mm-mm.
is if you're being interviewed, you want to put your best foot forward. Like I don't care what your life is outside of work. Your
Don't
life
bring your
outside of work is your
lifestyle
life outside
to
of work.
work.
But you need to have a particular subset of clothes for interviews. You need to have a serious resume just to get your foot in the door. um, you need to really spend some time on that resume, and you need to kind of shore up that education. Like, I hate to say it, if you're just a high school dropout, your choices are very limited because, again, you're stuck with 9 to 5 work, which means you're probably going to have to go back, get your GED, and then you can go ahead and start looking at additional things you can do. If you are just looking for a job in between, you know, school, you know, to kind of more or less pay for other things, and it's different. There's a difference between a career and an occupation, and this is something that
Hmm.
I tell people all the time. Like, like a career is who you are. An occupation is something that you do. It occupies your time. It's not meant to be a career, and this is the problem that we have with the job market. A lot of these 9 to 5ers have turned 9 to 5 into a career. A 9 to 5 job is not a freaking career.
Mm-mm.
Like, you can't
No,
be you know, you can turn your whole life into a Target employee for like 20, 30 years. You can do that. No one's saying that you can't. And I keep using those big box label companies because most oftentimes, especially now that we're in a socialist society where they're like, quote, giving away $15 an hour like it's candy. No, the reason they can do that is because inflation. They
Hmm.
can get away with doing $15 an hour. You still cost them X. Just because they're paying you 15 doesn't mean that you're costing them more. So, because here's the thing, you're a dollar amount. You pretty much every employee, if you're paying someone 15, on average, every $15 employee is literally costing you, $30 because we're talking about insurance here. You have to have them insured, and depending what that entails. Does it entail short-term, long-term coverage? Does it entail that you provide a dental plan? Does it entail that you provide a vision plan? Does it entail that you provide uh, services, employee assistance services? So, like, if they need legal services, if they need help with bereavement, if they need help with, mental health and stuff like that, a lot of these workplaces, it's already mandated that you have to have those services out there. So you can just hire these generic companies that offer that service and only pay them X amount. So, so again, going into the interview, like, here's my thing. Don't sound like you freaking just came off the street or came off the bus. If you're not well educated, you need to be well educated that day.
Hmm.
I hate to say it.
Lawyer up.
I hate having to deal with people that I'm having to break down an idea to because they don't necessarily not understand the concept. But it's
Give
the
the
whole point.
give some examples.
Well, my whole thing was this. Okay, so back in the day when I was setting up the airport, um, I ended up having to go to like different places in Utah, and I went to places in California. And in one of those instances, my manager was not able to be there for the interview. Like, he wasn't going to make it on time. So he's like, "Can you go ahead and start the interview?" And I'm like, "Oh, crap. Well, I've never done this before." Like, I mean, you're talking to like a 22, 23-year-old. I'm like, "Oh, I don't." Okay. So I did the smart thing. I got on, got on the internet, and I started looking up typical questions. And then I kind of started formulating an idea. It's like, okay, well, I want to hire another me. Like, like I want to hire someone who's on the ball, who like wants to be here, like who wants to do this, and not to like do it because, oh, this looks like a cool job. Yeah, well,
Right.
looks like a cool job and doing the work are two different things. So
Get off the idea of the job. Get more into the
you are what
you.
you do. You are what you do.
Yeah, get in the ready of doing the
And
job.
here's the thing:
yeah.
most people don't even practice their interviews. Like, you can go online and you can pull like interview questions, and you can literally sit there and think about these questions. Like, why do you want to be there? Like, what do you have to contribute? Um, Also, what's been a type of situation where you kind of had to help an employee come to your way of thinking, or have you had a situation where you had to more or less correct an employee because they were doing something wrong, and how did you do that? You know, like all these things come up all the time. Or what was the situation where you had an irate customer and you were able to resolve the problem? A lot of these retailers, like they'll train you in terms of uh, conflict resolution, but it's stuff that you should already be able to do, which it's not very hard. It's stuff that your parents teach you to do. Parents teach you to listen, teach you to be respectful, teach you not to talk over someone. They teach you to wait until someone is done saying what they're going to say, and then you tell them what you're going to say. So it's
More or
all,
less, don't do what we do here.
yeah. And
Yeah.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's like no one is saying you have to look 100%, but for crying out loud, spend a little money on some freaking whitening strips. For crying out loud, like no one is saying that you have to be super attractive to get a job. Yeah, of course it helps. It always helps. But
Mm,
but what I am saying is put your best foot forward. You want to be, you want your hair brushed, styled, your best clothes. No one's saying you have to go buy an $80 suit. Actually,
mm-mm.
that's a pretty cheap suit. No one is saying to go buy a $400 or $500 suit, but you can dress well on a budget.
Dress for
Or at least you
success.
should. That too, but at least you should know how to dress yourself. Nobody should be dressing you for yourself at all. You should. What Trooper is coming across is that you really should not leave like this is why I always get pissed off when I see people walking around with pajama pants on and they're
Yeah.
just going to the store. It's like I don't
Yeah.
care if you're just going to the store. Look like
Well,
you're getting ready to.
Put some jeans
imagine having to
on for crying
interview
out
that
loud.
person. Imagine having come across that application, and for whatever reason you need to pull some applications just random at this point because you need that job filled, and that person literally walks in through the fucking door. How do you think they're going to be? I swore. How do you think they're going to be dressed? They're not going to be dressed like they're going to court. They're going to be dressed like they're going to Kmart, and
Hmm.
Kmart doesn't even exist anymore. So they're going to wear their best T-shirt, and they're going to wear their best jeans, and they're going to wear their best flip
I'm gonna
flops.
tell you right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. Any person that decides to dress like that, you better pull some pursuit of happiness on my ass if I
Dude,
was hiring your
Yeah.
ass.
when I was in EMT training, dude, like my freaking uh like my instructor literally did a dress down on everybody. He literally took us all out and he did a freaking military dress down. And he yelled at almost everybody.
Oh yeah.
Like, and when it came down to me, like what he yelled at was like, it was the weirdest thing he yelled at. He's like, your uniform is fine, but you could have pressed it a little more. I was like, ass. I was like,
They threatened to gouge your eyes out and skull fuck you.
right, right. But yeah, but that was the thing. Like a lot of these dudes, like there was already a dress code. A lot of these dudes thought they could just show up with their little Nike shoes or whatnot, and that would be fine. It's like, no, you were told you need to wear steel toe boots.
Yep.
They need to either be
Boy,
black.
if you can't even pull a protractor out of your wiener slot and turn, then you shouldn't even bother trying to be with the king.
Right.
Right.
So yeah, it's like I've had that. So it's and that's the thing. I mean, it. I hate to say interviewing is not necessarily um, a skill that people have. Well, to some it comes naturally. To some it
Hmm.
doesn't. I mean, it's something that you can learn. I mean, you can get better at it. Some people interviews are just very like scary. To me, they're not. To me, honestly, they're not because I mean, I go in there with the mindset of, look, I'm gonna nail this because I already know it's on that paper and I'm pretty good. So it's like I'm competing against me at this point. Like it's do I do hopefully I won't do something stupid to throw the interview. I mean, I've done it before where where I literally threw an interview because I was like, yeah.
Also, they're not your friends; they're your employer.
Yep.
Well, here's the
Treat.
thing. Here's the thing with that. You have to be comfortable. You have to be comfortable enough to be able
Hmm.
to have a conversation. No one is saying to treat them like the friend outside.
Right.
But you need to
Right.
be able to be loose enough to be able to have a conversation so that you can actually get away from the interview questions, and then they can actually more or less get to know you, because I mean they're hiring you, they're not hiring the answers on that piece of paper. I mean some of these employers literally have gotten to that where that's their crutch, like whatever's on that paper is who they hire. But I mean, real seasoned managers, they're looking for someone that is pretty well rounded, pretty well together, and they're not going to find that out on a piece of paper. They're going to have to ask some
Nope.
questions.
They're gonna have to talk to you personally
Yeah,
in order to
yeah,
know that for
and that's how
sure.
that works. Yeah, that's how that works. Some people are just terrible at interviews, and they are awesome employees, but it's getting them to open up too. So from an HR standpoint, is being able to get that
So
person.
Eloise, we don't want to hear no excuse as I'm not a social person. Yes, you
Oh,
are.
I get tired of all that. Like I'm like, if that's who you
I'm
say
not
you
social
are,
either.
if that's who you say you are, fine. But I don't see you going far. You know, I don't see you going in any particular direction
My
very
thing
far,
is, if that's
because you end
if,
up being your own enemy at the very end of
yeah.
the day. You end up self-sabotaging. So,
Well, where my stance is that if you're not careful, that's all you ever gonna be.
well, yeah,
Right.
it's
If you
again, it's self.
if you settle into that mindset, that's all you think you're ever gonna be.
Oh yeah,
You need to get out your comfort zone, is
yeah,
what
you
we're
have to.
saying.
You almost have to. It's
Almost, you definitely have to.
It's a absolute must.
well, I mean, you want a little bit. You want a little bit of anxiety. Anxiety is not your enemy.
Right.
Anxiety can be
Right.
your friend if you're a disciplined person. It can help keep you on your toes so that you are over prepared, so that when you go into something like that, you skate through it. You skate through the interview. It's no longer a problem. So I mean, that's how it's always been for me. It's like you need to over prepare so that you can
Right.
achieve. If you're going to overachieve, you need to be overly prepared. But that's a whole other separate story. I mean that's what I would say to
I
anything, any
mean,
job.
just don't be like this. Hello, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Kara, and I love to but I hate my period.
Yeah, definitely don't be that chick.
Yeah, yeah. And it helps to do different things in your own personal life, because then you can say, oh, hey, by the way, I was also an associate producer on an independent comic. Oh, really? What's that like? Well, it's like you give someone money and you hope you don't, and hope they don't screw you over. I mean, at the very
Hmm.
end of the day, you hope they can pay you back.
Yep.
Hmm.
But I mean, you're doing it with the risk that this dude is gonna, it's gonna come back on their word 100%. I mean, that's why you
Yeah.
have to, as a producer, you kind of have to know these people that you're giving money to. Like that's
And not
like,
only that, but when you're on the job, it also gives you know some people something to talk to while you're on breaks and such. Make because
true,
you're gonna have to interact with other people as you're going
true.
about your day.
Like prior to 2021, maybe in 2016, I would have said, be a good leader. That's what I would have said. Now I can't say
Hmm.
that, because if I say that, I'm basically setting you up for failure now. So now
Yeah.
it's more like you
Right.
need to be a good follower. You need to be a good worker bee. So
Well, it's the same. What's that line from Drumline? You need to learn how to law. You need to learn how to follow before you learn how to lead.
that's funny. For gigawatts, like, what's your greatest weakness? It depends. If I want to throw the interview, then I basically say I don't really have one. Like, I mean, I don't. I mean,
Hey, Gigawatt.
Hey,
He's
you know
new
what?
too.
but um, and I did. I actually tossed an interview that way because I got tired of it. I was like, I'm like, I don't. I'm
You
definitely not
been
feeling it.
here. I haven't seen you. I haven't seen you around, dude. Welcome back. But go
So
ahead.
the whole point is when you say, like, I don't really have one. Well, I really don't. I mean, I can sell myself short. I mean, I could say that's my weakness, but I mean that's not something I like to advertise, because I don't really sell myself short. I think I tend to.
What about not being challenged enough?
Mm, I do remember saying one time, my greatest weakness was what was it? Well, I can tell you this. I can tend to be overly. I can tend to be like not overbearing, but I can tend to be very overly protective of certain things. Like I don't like other people failing. Like I always want people to succeed.
Oh,
Sometimes
same here. You too.
it's at the cost of my own success. And the responses I've gotten, well, why are you applying for this job? You should be, like a manager or something like that. It's like, it's that's more of a manager response. And I'm like, yeah, but my problem with leadership is you have to have a support system around you that allows you to lead. And if they're not going to be confident enough to let you lead, then basically you're going to be standing on your own. And anytime something happens, you'll be taking the fall for it. You won't have anyone to more or less say, "Hey, you know what? He made the right call." So,
Right.
so, and as far as you know, that's a typical. Um, the most common and bad answer, yeah, is that you are a perfectionist. But I mean, you can get around that. Um, I think we all like to believe that we're all special in some way because I mean that's how up
That's how
until
we've been
recently,
raised.
when we started giving out purple awards to everybody for just being there, um, I mean, we were all
No
more
more
or
leaders.
less.
Now that everybody's a
I mean, we
leader,
were
quote
all
unquote.
more or less raised to believe that yeah, we might be perfectionists because that's what comes with the meritocracy. Like, in order to succeed in a meritocracy, you have to almost try to be as perfect as possible. That's
Mm.
what comes from being in a meritocracy, but we're no longer in that. So
You're you're more or less conditioned to pursue a a self improvement,
well now,
i.e., some through an outsider's perspective. I'm saying, i.e., through an outsider's perspective, they think that you're trying to be a perfectionist. But no, it's more of yourself enough to know that there's a lot more that you can do with your life. Yeah, there's a lot more that you can strive for, that you can push yourself to achieve, even if you're at quote unquote whatever age that you're in. There's a lot that you can do as you get older. Most people don't see that,
mhm.
and most people let that slip them by because they're still so focused on what they lost before prior. It's like, no, you are still the king. You just gotta be a king somewhere else, or you gotta rebuild your kingdom if you lost your kingdom.
Yep.
That
Well, and yes
and
and
that
no, yes and no to that response that
right.
oh, they just want to see you react to it. Here's my thing in my experience, especially because I've dealt with this a lot. It really has nothing to do with how you react to it, as more or less they're trying to kind of gauge your personality at that point. Most people don't even ask that question. Honestly, it really does depend on who's interviewing you because you could have like, and I've had this before where you have terrible HR people making these terrible interviews and then they send them your way and like they're a mouth breather and it's like, no. I'm like, no, sorry, this dude isn't going to work out. So, oh, but I thought he was wonderful. Yeah, and you're also an idiot. So, send me another one. But it's in like in my personal experience, if you're going to interview, you might as well just be yourself. I'm not saying be an idiot in your interview. What I'm saying is the only way
Don't
you're
be
going to
too
get that
much of yourself. Just
the only way you're going to get
50% of
that
yourself.
job, honestly, the only way you're going to get that job is if you actually let them get to know you as a person. You know, in that you have very genuine and human responses. It's not like you're there to make friends. No, you're there to more or less expose yourself to the experience. So, when I was a report writer, that was my big thing. Like I sailed through the interview. Like I honestly thought I had, some other, high caliber people that I was kind of, going up against. But realistically, it's one of these things. After I was given the position, and after I spoke to a few, after I spoke to, my you know senior director, and then my officer and stuff, like the whole point was it's they really weren't looking to hire anyone else. They were hoping that I was going to go ahead and put in for it. I was like, oh really? I'm like, yeah, yeah. S-
Hmm.
so And I mean, and that's the other thing too. It's sometimes when you go in there, that sometimes they already have someone in mind. They just have to kind of go through the paces of interviewing people, and in
Hmm.
that process, they may actually find someone who they like even more. So you want to be that person. You want to be the person that they like even more than the person they have in mind. So,
Dennis, our lives are in your hands, and you have butterfingers.
but anyway, away
Mhm.
away from this topic. Uh, Now that we're in the fun portion of the stream, I really don't have anything like today. I mean, I don't really care for what Marvel's doing. I don't really care
Yep.
for
The new
Same
Matrix.
here.
Matrix, yeah.
Matrix rebooted. Like, nah, I don't care for
Yeah.
any of that. I'm not looking. I'm not looking to see any of that.
They
I don't.
only chose
I
Resurrection.
I
It,
get tired of other freaking YouTubers sitting here and literally rehashing like haterade all the time. I get over it. It's like, look, you're not offering your viewership anything new. Like you're
mm-mm.
literally, except now you're kind of you're turning the worm a little. You're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh, you should go see it.
Yeah.
Um,
Anything
I'm
they
not
can do to keep their numbers up.
I'm not giving you a super chat, or I'm not giving you a sub, a YouTube sub, or I'm not giving you a Patreon so that you can friggin' fluff me. Like
Right.
if I'm giving you my business, is because I honestly want your input, because I've now, as a viewer, trust you to give me genuine content that I'm paying for. And if you can't do that, I'll take my sub somewhere else, along with my
Yeah.
monthly, with the monthly sub.
Yeah. There's some
So,
YouTubers I don't follow anymore because they're too negative about everything.
oh dude, some of them are just fake, dude. They're just absolutely fake.
Oh, tell me about it.
And it's we all know who that group is. I tend to stay away from that group. There's maybe only one or two people that I tend to follow that I even consider pop culture critics at this point.
Yeah.
Mm.
But the only reason I follow them is because I follow someone else. So, like, my whole thing has been at this point is, if I'm gonna be on YouTube at all, it's I'll check out some LawTube, or I'll check out some music, some mixes, from some of my
For me,
content
wood
creators that I
turning,
like.
sculpting, art,
Yeah,
forging.
DIYing. Well, yeah.
yeah, that, or a lot of the mini camping.
Like video game modders and crap like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, or like a lot of these dudes that literally turn their Fords into like mini homes. I've seen that too,
Hmm.
where
Yeah.
they turned a Ford 550 into
Yeah.
like this like mini.
Fitness YouTube. Try to
Yeah,
get keep myself motivated to do fitness.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that too. There's that too. So I mean, and that's if I'm on YouTube at all. Like I'll watch stuff on Odyssey for sure.
Like, there's only really like a few people I follow because they're just fun to watch. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can do that too.
Yeah, there's like a lot of bushcraft dudes on YouTube that I'll watch.
Yeah.
And that's those are the dudes that I do watch because they're delivering genuine content.
That's
Like,
why that's why I want to continue the fancy studio office segment of this channel,
Right.
mm.
because I like talking about stories that we could write.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I do too. I mean, I mean, it can be a little finite though, because I hate having to. My whole personal view has always been, I don't mind coming up with stories, but I get tired of trying to redo other people's stories. Like,
Oh no, we're
Yeah.
not doing no
like, like,
redo.
like, we already know a lot of these IPs are trash. They're already
Hmm.
going down the tubes. We already
No, I'm
know
saying
that.
going forward, if we do another studio office, we're not rewriting. We're just
We're
Yeah,
creating.
coming up with our own stuff instead of just rehashing what someone else did.
yeah,
Yeah, the only time we ever did that was with the Marvel Phase 4. That's it. That was the
Yeah.
only thing we were doing. The DCU, that was us creating the DCU, not rewriting the DCU. That was not me rewriting Man of Steel, or Leia rewriting the first Wonder Woman, or you, Brian, rewriting Batman v Superman. In
Right.
fact, if anything that was actually original, that the two things that were original in that stream was Trooper and Schooner.
Oh yeah.
Schooner talked about his idea of introducing Red Tornado, and
yep,
Yeah.
you doing your own DCEU light DC show with
Yeah.
Miss Martian,
yep,
Yeah.
which I didn't call it that. I respected how you titled it. So
yeah,
so So this is what I wrote for everything. So mine's is the Superman DCEU, right? Les is the Wonder Woman DCEU, right? Yours, Brian, Batman DCEU, right? For
Right.
Schooner and Trooper, for his Red Tornado is Red Tornado DCEU, right?
Right.
Whereas in Trooper's video, it's Megan Moore's, right? So
Right.
Mhm.
so out of respect, I titled it that way because that's how you title your show.
Right.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I will definitely be breaking down the Marvel Phase 4 Fantasy Studio Office too,
Yeah.
and I'll be uploading those vids as vids too. And so far, um, Troopers got 12 views. Mine's got 19. Leia's got 14. Yours got 7.
Then
Brian and Squint's
probably
got
because I
5.
yeah probably because I'm probably the worst talker in that whole thing.
Don't sell yourself short, dude. You tried. That's all. Like one thing I will give you is that be I keep the beginning parts of those of the talks, right?
Right.
You spoke with confidence, like I should try. You know what? I will stand up and get a whack at it. And of course, again, this was off the cuff for you, so I don't think you were that ready to do something off the cuff like that. The
Yeah.
Superman one was me literally off the cuff. I had
Yeah.
no script for that shit.
Yeah.
Like,
I need a little
here-
help in mine because I had
yeah,
trouble thinking of stuff.
yeah. On my yeah, like Trooper can clearly tell that I was making that shit up as I was going along.
Yeah.
but
But
I
no.
but I made it sound like a genuine story, didn't I, Trooper?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Like that was no notes taken. Like the more I stopped in, I was like Ultra Human, and I just sailed through that shit from beginning to end. It's like that was me at the top of my head throughout that whole thing.
This is
30.
interesting. This is
Hmm?
interesting.
What?
So looking at the drama with the Ten Rings. Okay, here's my thing. Okay, so opening weekend, it opened at 71, right?
Hmm.
Then they tried to say it was 90 million, and now it's down to 75 million. And they're like, no, 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 no. We didn't mean opening weekend. We meant gross U.S. and Canada sales.
Oh
Mm-mm.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, gross U.S. and Canada sales is only at 101 million. Okay, just to kind of give you an idea, right? So worldwide, as of today, right now, this film has only made 156 million dollars. Now you figure the budget is going to be at least 200 million, at least, right?
Right.
It opened below Black Widow.
Yep.
I don't know how they expect this film to outperform Godzilla versus Kong. No film this year has been able to top Godzilla versus Kong.
Not even Quiet Place 2?
No, no, Quiet Place
Wow.
did not. A lot of these freaking films,
Wow.
a lot of these films did the range of animated films. Like normally animated films normally rake in 100 or 200 million. Here, let me pull up Quiet Place 2. Because the one
Dude, it's
thing
not
no
our fault
one
you
on
suck.
freaking YouTube is talking about, because they're all a
Mhm.
bunch of little shills, or rather they all shill for each other. I'll leave it at that. But the one thing that they're
Chill
not talking
away.
about,
Chill away.
like the one thing they're not talking about is how this thing is freaking flopping uh, outside of North America because it's banned in China. No one's talking about that.
Right.
No one's talking about China's like, we know one no female male.
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of all this shit.
They're like, we don't want no like 40-year-old housewives as superheroes.
I know one no weak man. We know one no weak man. I'm like, okay. Yeah, so that's Quiet Place 2 right there. So Quiet Place 2 grossed
Nah,
160
this
mil.
is what the China market wants.
Mind you, so
Hey.
far, yeah.
Hey, this is the China market right here. This is what they want.
Here's my motherfucking boss. I'm a lead farmer, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to watch Tropic Thunder.
You need
Yeah.
to. That
I've seen it. It's pretty funny.
Well, you know, I have.
you're
I have.
committing sacrilege by
I-
not watching it.
I need some more RDJ in my life today. So
Shit, anybody who has not seen Tropic Thunder is committing sacrilege. I don't care what y'all think of me
I
after
get
that.
it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying right now, you commit fucking sacrilege for not watching that movie. That movie is comedy gold. And
I
I
actually
thought one
saw it in
go,
the theater. I saw it in the theater.
But yeah, like okay,
dude,
Quiet
I
Place
thought I
2.
wasn't gonna like that movie. I end up loving that movie
Qui-
instead. Like
Quiet
like
Quiet
not just
Place
pure.
2.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say Quiet Place 2 only grossed 297 million.
Hmm.
Yeah. So just to kind of give you an idea, like I said, like uh Crouching Tiger, Hidden Shang-Chi or Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi has to
Discount Iron Fist.
right, it has to
We finally made Iron Fist an Asian this time,
it
Yeah.
has to
as I
break
like to call it.
334 million, which is Hulk, in order not to be the lowest grossing film. It has to. I give it the personal benchmark of it needs to break 324 million because that's Shazam, and Shazam was actually a very good film.
Hmm.
Um, and then it has to break 365 million, which is like Black Widow. It has to do more than 365. It might, but it's definitely not going to make 600 million. Like the 600 million dollar movie is gone. That time is gone. Um, we might get that with Dune. We might get that with well, I would have said we might get that with No Way Home, but with freaking what is it? What other freaking film is freaking? They're doing a whole bunch of shit this year. Like suddenly Venom has an earlier release date that's going to compete with Dune, which is going to make
Hmm.
Venom flop.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I wish that they hadn't done that because I'm gonna go see Dune like at least 12 times if I like it. So that's just me. Like when Wonder Woman came out, I saw that sucker 9 times. So
Nice.
yep, like I saw it in freaking Real D, I saw it in freaking IMAX, I saw it in 2D, saw it at the drive-in because we got a drive-in here in town, and then the rest of it was just my favorite theater. And I would watch it. I would watch it on like right after work because I had a theater up the street. I had a AMC up the street.
I have yet to pay for a movie twice in a theater. I should do that one of these days.
Yep.
I should see Free Guy if it's still in the theater, but
I need
that
to go
ship is
see Free
stale.
Guy. I need to go
Like
see.
if any interest that I had for that movie, I that ship has sailed already. But whatever.
Yeah.
So
While you were talking about the whole interview thing, you know what? You know a clip I missed it to pretty much sum it up.
hmm
You just gotta go out there and do it.
Hey, yep.
Or rather, I'll end it on that clip. No promises.
right.
But yeah, like with the way how pop culture is, I've said this in private too. Going now that you
Yeah.
mentioned Matrix Resurrections, which again they're only using that tagline only because all the sequels use a word that start with an R. Reloaded, Revolutions,
Right.
hmm
now Resurrections, and I'm like, okay, as if Resurrection has not been used for so many years for so many a movie that really did not make sense to even use that like even the what's that Jason Statham movie, The Mechanic,
Yeah.
the Mechanic Resurrection. I was like, what, did he die, did he get hurt and then come back? I saw none of that to justify that. Where I'm going with this pretty much is what Trooper said like earlier with the name thing, right?
hmm
The same thing goes for the title. The title has to mean something at best, you know. So you gotta find a way to justify that tagline. So if you put resurrections, like where, okay, who's resurrecting, or what's resurrected from, or what's the meaning of resurrection? You just or are you just putting that there
Right.
just to sound, as a lot of people would like to say, edgy or spiritually
Right.
inclined, like you hear that and you you heard it because you thought it was cool.
Right.
AVPR, or Alien vs Predator Requiem, made sense because twice the body count. And we all know what
Hmm.
requiem. If you knew the definition of requiem, or what a requiem is, that's literally what that is: a high body count of epic proportions. So that's why that was there. Like it was not there for, you know,
Right.
it wasn't there just to be there. You
Right.
know, like
It had
like
a reason to be there.
because I looked up requiem, I was like, oh, they were like, oh, okay, nice, cool, very cool. Or say for instance, Snow White, Husband's War. I'm like, okay, who was he warring against? His own people, where he came from. Interesting, but I don't see no war. I just saw him fighting two ladies at the end. That's about it.
Yep.
I guess, or is he at war with himself? Because it sounded like he was on a quest to save Snow White again. You know,
Mm,
funny enough, they didn't have the prince this time in Huntsman's War. If you guys ever saw that movie, I'm assuming that
mm,
you didn't at this point, unless you tell me otherwise.
yeah.
You know,
I don't believe I have seen that actually.
well that depends. Did you see Snow White and the Huntsman?
No, didn't see that.
Also, yeah, why would you want to see a sequel to a movie that you didn't even want to see in the first place?
Yep.
Which I did. I'm like, I wasn't really ready to commit to my Christian Stewart hate boner yet, because there are some things that she can do that worse, or at least I was there for Charlize Theron. You know,
Yeah.
like I like I defy you to find somebody who was there for Christian Stewart.
Right.
You know, whoever watched that movie just for Christian Stewart. I defy you to find anybody who was there to watch that bitch. Just stare blankly at the damn screen all day and shake her head and do them jittery movements and stuff. And she's supposed to be a princess. Like, yeah, last time
Yeah.
I checked, a princess don't jittery move unless she's a very timid princess. Which last time I checked, that bitch ain't timid.
Right.
But well, they're there for two people, Chris Hemsworth and Charlize Theron for those movies. You know, they
Hmm.
damn sure wasn't there for the prince or at least who they chose to have a prince with. I could be misremembering. I don't think they had a prince in that one, did they?
Right.
I've seen the movie only once, so. But yeah, like I again, point bottom line is I defy you to find anybody who watched that movie just for Christian Stewart, because that was the huge market with that
Yeah.
movie
Right.
was Christian Stewart and Charlize Theron, and with a little unknown Chris Hemsworth at the time.
Yeah.
And the only reason why Huntsman's War, I'm gonna say this right now, Huntsman's War got made because Chris Hemsworth did Thor.
Yep.
That shit came right after Thor, and that's the only reason why they gave him his story was because of Thor.
Right.
And some people like to say that sequel failed, whereas the previous movie succeeded. I was like, truth be told, I prefer the second movie over the first movie.
Hmm.
Really now, I'm gonna tell you right, I'm straight up right there. Like I rather prefer Huntsman's War. You know, even though they screwed up the Ice Queen in that
Right.
movie, because they didn't really they really hyped up Emily Blunt's villainess in that movie with that trailer. They really hyped that up, but majority of the film it's like her trying to be Daenerys before Daenerys was a thing. Where are my dragons? Like like I said, it's a flimsy black backstory they gave her, and they made Charlize Theron her sister, and they don't even capitalize on that one at
Mhm.
all. But again, I watched it only because Charlize came back, and I was there for Charlize.
Right.
So other than that, like what other movies did you guys watch that you knew was terrible, or at least that wasn't really up to snuff with what it was setting out to do,
Mm.
right? But you were there for one particular thing or one particular person.
Hmm.
Troopers on break, so it's up to you, Brian. Show me the
Uh,
money. Show me the money. No,
uh,
no, hey man, I told you go the whole 9, not the whole 100. I'm kidding.
well, to be honest, I don't usually take much interest in a film unless it's something that pops out at me right away. So I haven't really seen too much films I would
So
just see for just one actress or actor
mhm.
because I don't really follow the celebrity culture enough to really get that invested in individual people. It's always the story that intrigues me with this sort of thing.
Oh, I'm sure you were there for a particular actor. I'm pretty sure there at
Hmm.
least one actor you did admire. I'm not trying to cast doubt in what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm saying there might have been some instances you just can't remember because it was probably that one instance. Because I'll
probably.
tell you right, because
The only
go,
thing I could really imagine was like maybe a Jim Carrey movie. I think it was Liar Liar.
mm-hmm. And you were there just for Jim Carrey, and that
Pretty
I
much.
would tell you right now, I did not like that movie, but I stuck around that movie because of Jim Carrey.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like it's either that one or Yes Man, because I know they're both very similar films with similar themes.
Hmm.
You know. So that'd
Yeah,
be
I watched that I watched that movie. I still like that movie, but I only watched that movie because my friends treated me,
yeah,
and I'm not always like. The thing is, I'm not always like the type to just go for any Jim Carrey movie because half the time some of the stuff is just
pretty dumb. I know.
well, no, it's like I kind of feel like they underutilize Jim Carrey's talents or they overutilize Jim Carrey's talents, which is his usual sticks that he does for comedy's sake, like his body movements.
Right. Like I noticed his style is very manic and very loud.
Hmm. It's
Like
probably why I probably didn't like I don't like Will Ferrell movies that much
yeah.
because he's always loud for and not just reason or at times a pretentious reason when he's not like
Hmm.
it's like it's hard like I was questioning like what do you guys see in Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
What do you guys see in Will Ferrell that I'm not seeing? Because I've never laughed at his stuff except for the other guys.
Yeah.
And
Like, he's getting a chuckle out of me, but overall, I just don't really think too much of him, to be honest.
yeah, other guys is the only time I actually laughed the hardest when it
Yeah.
came down to Will Ferrell. Because the
Yeah.
absurd shit he says in that film,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
the thing. Will Ferrell movies are always pretty absurd in and of themselves. Like even like Talladega Nights was like that too, if you remember. Like when
I couldn't
he
even
thinks
stand
he's
him and Get Hard.
yeah. Like if you're not first, you're last. It's like what? I was high when I said that. Right?
I'm just saying, it just kills me. What I don't know. It's like,
Well, it's just none of these actors are very one note, as you know. They're very good at like one thing and only one thing.
mhm.
If you notice, like they always do
Adam
either.
Sandler, I pretty much wash my hands of him.
Oh, any particular reason?
Well, Grown Ups was the straw that broke the camel's back
Uh,
when it got a sequel that like I, I would say this I did not watch Grown Ups at all, and I definitely outright refuse to watch Grown Ups 2. And I'm like, why is we still making these? And I think
huh.
they made a third one too.
Uh-huh. That'll do it.
I could be wrong though. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. I think Grown Ups 2 was the last one. It's like
I
I,
didn't even know
I
there was a second one. I remember just the first one.
yeah, it was aptly named Grown Ups 2.
Yikes.
Literally Grown Ups 2 and the same people too, and it was it's like
They're just like rehashing the stories.
I don't think they were rehashing it per se, but like again, why would I want to watch a sequel to a movie that I think that to my, that from my opinion is what I'm saying. From my opinion, should never have
Yeah.
been made
Yeah.
because it's like you got a bunch of man children as supposedly. I'm guessing what they were going with this story is that these are supposed to be role models, right? So
Right.
you got a bunch of man children that are role models. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's basically what they were selling, man child humor. And
Yeah.
hate to say this, but like some things just happen for a reason, and some things are happening because this happened, or this is the reason why we're in the state of where we at
Because
this
we
point. And
celebrate man children,
yep,
basically.
and not
And
responsible fathers. Like
right.
gone are the days of that typical.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Gone are the days of the typical corny, boring, well-meaning, put together dad, and
Right.
the typical housewife and all that stuff.
Right.
Gone are those days.
Mm-hmm.
Now we got ineffectual mother, or either he's a deadbeat dad, or even if he's a dad that's in the child's life, he's a fuddy-duddy dad.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, slapstick comedy be damned, but that's what we're getting these days. If not that, we got the lazy dad that's taking the huge beating from his peers, mainly his family. You got the
Yeah.
dad. If the dad's hiding a secret, he's getting the shits for it, especially if it's a legit. If it's especially if it's a legit reason why they they
Mm-hmm.
kept that secret. You know, and
Yeah.
that's not just particularly the dads. That goes for any good upstanding individual where
Yeah.
they have every real reason why they
Well,
keep
that's
certain
the
secrets.
well, a lot of that's the cynicism you see in today's media, where like there is no good in anything. Everything's just supposed to be viewed negatively. Like Schooner Tuna has talked about this many times. Like ever since the turn of the century here, it's been like that.
It's like they're trying to push you more towards being open with everything about yourself.
Yeah.
Everything about yourself. Like that's
Which
why that's why
many.
that's why when a person reveals a secret about somebody, or at least a secrets get revealed to the people and people hate them for it, it's basically telling you you shouldn't keep secrets at all. You should be telling
Yeah.
everybody about yourself every
Yeah.
single day.
Well,
Every
it's well, that's like if you go on the internet, do you do you tell everybody your social security number? Am I
do
right?
you want to?
Exactly
That's
my
that's the
point.
thing. You should treat. Well, that's the thing. You should treat every aspect of your life like a social security number, or at least
Right,
like basically your. I'm not saying you should keep everything about yourself hidden as far as identity is concerned, but what
right.
I am saying is this: you should not share too much of yourself, anyways. It's like
Yeah,
there's a reason why men are trained to be stoic and not always revealing too much about themselves, or
yep,
showing their vulnerabilities
yeah,
all the time, because
yeah,
they don't know who they're sharing their vulnerabilities to.
yeah. You just
Even if you,
never know. Like you just never know that you can't share everything with you know total strangers who may or may not be your friend.
or have your interests at the best of heart.
Exactly.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah, these topics get like that sometimes. What's also really stupid is people feel like they have to share their opinions about everything, even when it's a subject that they don't know bupkis about.
That's natural. That's
Oh yeah,
whether you're of one side or the other. That's natural. Like
yeah,
that's called
Some-
that's basically being opinionated.
yeah,
Whether you're wrong or right, you're just being opinionated. Like that.
yeah,
That's usually a good thing.
yeah. Usually a good thing, but sometimes people take it way too far.
Well, they again, it's more when your opinions try to be more authoritative. That's
Yeah,
where you get your problem at.
yeah. It's like people want to think that they're an authority on something when they're really not.
hmm See, so if there's any takeaway about that subject, it's okay to be opinionated. Just don't be too authoritative.
Yeah,
Pretty
especially when
sure.
you can't, especially when you're not an authority on the subject at all.
hmm
You
That's
gotta have
always
that.
begin with from my observation, from what I've observed thus far.
Right.
That's only going by my observations. It's not really saying my observation is gospel.
Certainly.
I'm just reporting on what I see, and I'm only again. I will even lead off with saying speculative. This is only speculation on my part.
Right.
So don't. So if anything, take take what I have to say with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
which I'm sure Trooper does too sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
But
Oh, we got a grumpy old ninja Kentaro Oe. Hey, I'm free. Hola and hail. Y'all been up to? I watched the first stream and learned Xenovision and Persona, and now I can't unlearn them.
my social security number is 111111111.
Playing off of what I was just saying earlier.
I did not want to watch Step Brothers. I'm sorry. I did not. The movie didn't sell me enough to make it worth my time to watch two dudes just act like a bunch of kid brothers
Yeah, I hear
jumping on a bunk bed that breaks underneath the weight. I'm like, really?
it.
This is
Watching
what
stuff on a CRT TV.
I'm just saying. Like the more they show that in the trailer where John C. Riley jumps on the bed with Will Ferrell underneath and it cracks and like literally traps him underneath the bed because I know how bunk beds are made. So of course he's gonna get out of there with minor injuries or maybe somewhat injuries. But then again, this is operating on cartoon slapstick
Pretty
in these type of
much.
comedies. But like when I saw shit like that, I'm like, really? This is what you're selling me?
Yeah.
This is what you're selling me the of the movies? Thank you. Yeah. So let's yeah like the suspension of disbelief be damned. But like when I saw like that kind of humor, I was like, that's too childish. Like no person in their right mind would literally just immediately jump on a bump bed like that. Even just for a gag is what I'm saying. That's just plain stupid.
Right.
I'm like that. Like stupid is funny, yes, but like I'm guessing maybe I'm at the point where now it's like I feel like I'm being forced to take the comedy seriously, and I don't like to
Right.
be forced to be taking comedy seriously if it's supposed to be comedy or at least funny. But like
Yeah.
here we are, I'm looking at Step Brothers the trailer, and I'm thinking like when I see stuff like that, I'm like, am I being forced to take this seriously? Because I think or at least I feel like I need to take this comedy seriously. Like I'm more concerned about the man's well being, not laughing at his plight.
Yeah, I hear it. Hmm.
Like I'd rather watch Major Pain again because at least Major Pain, you're laughing at somebody's
What's
expense in
like
that movie.
what's this glorification of deadbeat dads and shit when you get these, man children like that, you know?
Well, they yeah, actually, you know what? You're right. There was a glorification of deadbeat dads back in the days, or at least, well, not necessarily a glorification. It's more of a too often we get too much of those stories where if you
Yeah.
it's like say for instance
Hmm.
this is kind of like the go-to writing make generic writing makeup of a father is what
Yeah.
for not
But
being in the home now.
it's basically writing Homer Simpson in like other forms, you know?
What I'm saying is that you can't cast a person for a father, or at least the story doesn't have a father in it. Well,
Right.
he's a deadbeat, he ran out.
Yeah, it's always the typical story because they don't know anything else.
You don't even know how to write how great a father was back then, or at least you don't want to put in the work to to tell us what kind of a man this person was back
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
and why the child should think about this person. Say
Yeah.
for instance, the same writing makeup for the mother, dead,
Hmm. Oh yeah.
dead due to illness, or dead because of murder, or dead because of an accident. It's that same token. Like wait, why can't the dad die that way either? It's like why
Yeah.
can't the dad die of or at least die of a
Well,
cause beyond their control?
that's another thing. Like Hollywood just keeps going back to the same tired tropes over and over again, and like none of the people there are innovators. They just recycle what's already been done before.
Hey Hollywood, did you know that there's still dads out there that take good care of their kids?
Yep. Look at my dad.
Truth be told, whenever time I heard deadbeat dads, I'm like sitting here saying, I
What
don't need to
about
be
deadbeat?
reminded.
What
Look, I
about
don't need
deadbeat moms? Nobody
that
talks about
too.
that.
It's rare. It's rare they talk about that. But what I'm saying is, I don't need to be reminded that I have a dad that's a faraway dad.
Exactly.
At that time, when I was young, I was like, I don't need to be reminded that I don't have a dad in my life.
Right.
I can
Right.
see that in reality. I like to see father figures in my movies, okay,
Same.
and shows. I like to see people with dads. I like to admire people with dads,
Right.
or at least hang out with. I really should not be hanging out with another friend's dad, but here we are. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, like when I see deadbeat dads, I'm like deadbeat fathers. Like I want that to be a rarity in
Same.
story and fiction. I don't want that to be
The
the go
norm.
to. The Yeah, thank you, the norm. That's why when I watched something like Good Witch, and you had the doctor dad, who's not really protect. He's a single father now, but like he has a good healthy relationship with the ex wife. You know, especially when it comes to the custody thing between
Mm-hmm.
the son and the parents. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and you know there are times where they do come into grips with that, especially with the son being a kind of a little pissant towards his dad, who's trying to connect with
Mm-hmm.
his son, who's trying to be a father in the son's life, which
Mm-hmm.
it happens. Like the son,
Right.
he can have his ups and downs with the dad sometimes, but at the end of the day, the son respects his dad, or at least he loves his
Exactly.
dad enough. And there are times, you know, he's, you know, there was a conflict where he wanted to be with the mom, but
Exactly.
he remembered the times that he did, you know, the times that he spent with his dad. And there,
Exactly.
and I think ultimately he changed. You know, he chose to live with his dad,
Mm-hmm.
continue to live with his dad more. So
Mm-hmm.
let's not also forget that he has a little bit of
Yeah.
a little sister in the form of a good friend of one of the good witches,
Right.
uh, and of course the mother of the other girl is a good mother figure to the boy too. But then again,
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about Good Witch, which is on the Hallmark Channel, where there's no shortage of them always portraying families in a positive light all
Yeah.
the time in that network, because concerning that network's mostly religious in nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though Good Witch is more of uh you know, they're witches, but you can obviously tell they're written by religious folks. You
Yeah.
can obviously tell they're written by religious folks. They're not really they don't really go heavily into the whole pagan side of witchcraft in Good
Right.
Witch. Whereas you got the doctor dad. I don't want to say his name. I
Mm-hmm.
know his name, but like my nickname for him is Doctor Dad because he does a good job being a dad.
That's true.
Believe it or not, he does a really good job of being a dad. The actor does a good job acting his part. Like even when he's not around his son, and when he talks, it's like, damn, I wish I had a dad like him. But
Yeah.
that's why I call him Doctor Dad.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and Doctor Dad's kind of like he's he's kind of like a pseudo atheist, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly because um the whole point of the main character, which is the Good Witch,
Right.
she spreads in a little bit of magic. Beginning of the first season of that show, the magic was more pseudo, which is you don't know whether it was magic or not or coincidence. And I kind of love that format back then. They kind of made it a bit too more obvious as the series go on, but it's still a good series though. Like in later seasons, it's obviously you can tell that they're trying to make the magic more real now. Whether in the beginning it was more of was it real or was it just by pure coincidence or luck? Whereas but he was like the quote unquote non-believer.
Right.
He was made to be the non-believer. But the thing is that they don't treat him like shit in that show.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
he still gives a fair point as to whether it works or not, or whether magic is believable or not. Which is you can still follow on any side, but you know which side's going to win out. But at the end of the day, he still gets to stay his stance. You know, and
Yep.
he's still all the better for it. But at the same time, he's still learning and growing as a human, as a character. You know, that's what I love about Good Witch, as corny and cheesy as it can be at times, and very religious
Yeah.
heavy, if you want to
Right.
call it that. Like it's one
Mm-hmm.
of those few positive shows I've watched recently.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I hear
and, I, and I'm sure if Al was still in the chat, he'd be like, "I love Good Witch."
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Al, you're not alone. Like if one of these days, I would like to have him on here so we can talk about Good Witch,
yeah,
like talking Good Witch
Right.
stream, and we'll talk about all the good parts and favorite characters. I have a lot of favorite characters, but Doctor Dad's my favorite, my top favorite,
I hear it.
mostly because he has this conviction about him especially when he's taking care of patients.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
they don't treat him as like this guy who's not really good at his job. He's really good at his job, whether or not you believe in it or not. For any health experts or anything like that.
Yep.
So, but at the end of the day, it's like I only like him because he's a good father figure.
Right.
He's a well written father figure and a well written father
Mhm.
because he doesn't let the boy get ground. His own son. He puts his foot down.
Right.
And when the last time you ever had parents that put their foot down in most shows now?
Not often, that's for certain.
As I'm like, bruh, look, I may not have always the best relationship with most of my family, you know, but I still respect them to some degree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's like you hardly ever have children that respect their peers, their adults. They always want to be the ones in the right. They always want to be the ones that know everything than adults. They or at least they have this idea where adults are stupid, and it's written by kids who grew up thinking adults were stupid and never learned the lesson.
Yeah. That's because they grew up hating their parents or something like that.
hmm That was a privilege to be had. I would say having both parents in your life is a privilege at this point
Pretty
because
much.
most kids don't get that because of the system that was placed upon them, which is
Yep.
the welfare system. And
Oh,
now you got to rely on mommy's relying on big daddy government, and
yeah.
dad has shirked away his financial and familial responsibilities because now he has nothing to protect or raise because
Yep.
mommy is now married to daddy government.
Pretty
Mhm.
much. Don't even get me started on that.
What was how did Larry Elder call it? He says left by daddy, married to mama.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's how he called it. I
That man,
would be.
smart dude.
Yeah, but that's how he called it. He says left by day, married to mama for sons.
Yeah.
Cuz oh boy, that yeah, the some boys do develop that kind of Oedipus complex
Right.
Oh yeah.
without the father,
Yeah.
you know. Especially and same goes for the daughters that are raised by that are left by mama married to daddy in the worst
Yeah.
kind of way, or at least they're seeking daddy, no mama, through other people, or if they're left with if they're away from daddy, they seek daddy from somewhere else,
Yeah.
and that's why we call it daddy government.
Yeah. This government really has like taken over the daddy role, which it shouldn't have.
That side means it's like this is the world we live in.
This is the world we live in.
Money we making, for we spend it, you take it. Whoa, make me wanna holler. Where do my life?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
All right.
Yep.
Grumpy says, because it's men's turn to be the butt end of the joke, been coming since the 90s, positive mother figures shouldn't mean you can't portray positive father figures, though they both used to be before 2016.
Yeah.
He also called it with a capital D. I think he's answering my monologue.
Yep.
He also says, you mean the so-called black face of white supremacy? had actual
Ah,
racist acts committed against him this week. Yeah, just
uh,
referring to uh to future Governor Elder, as I want to call him.
yeah. I hope he wins too.
Newsom, I'm just saying Newsom is not looking good at all. They be trying to throw these ads at me about Newsom, like motherfucker. I ain't voting for that motherfucker at all.
I hear it.
I want some new blood at this point. I'm tired of seeing his face all over the damn news and all over the damn
Y-
plastic and shit.
Yeah, we need somebody that isn't a legacy candidate for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So yeah, you pushing me to vote for Elder. You know I'm gonna vote for Elder.
Yeah,
And I know, Trooper, you want my family involved in this. I'm like, but the thing is,
Everybody, anybody who can vote and who wants to vote, and they need to
yep,
vote for Larry at this point. It's either
yep.
that or get more mandates.
I'm voting for Caitlyn Jenner because we need more trans people in the office.
no, that is so shallow as anything.
I'm like,
You should be
yeah, that
voting for
that
their
would be like the worst
qualifications, not
reason
whether
to
they
do
tick
it.
a box.
And what good? And let me ask you this: what good was voting for Hillary because she's a woman worked out for you? How did that work out for you? I mean,
Or
Right.
even voting for Obama because he was black.
how did that work out for any of you guys?
Yeah, he got Trump. That's what happened. And
No,
yes,
y'all
I will
really.
say his name.
I'm just saying, y'all skipping out on an opportunity to have another black governor in office in one of your states. I'm saying if you want to be all that inclusive, like you want that you want that black person, that black face on every media now. Like how you
They
how
want
are
it
you
everywhere
trying?
except on the pancake box.
I'm just saying how you gonna say you want that, but then you want to switch to something else that you want a virtue signal, which is, you know,
Well, because they're not consistent with their worldview. They just do whatever's convenient for them.
Hmm.
it's like I said earlier in the back in the green room. It's like that kid that takes that one toy, puts it on top, then switch out for a new toy, and then switch out for a new toy.
Yep.
That's what they want: a toy, a puppet, a
Hmm.
figurehead.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yep.
It's like you don't want nobody who's and this go back to the jobs thing, which I know we're past the jobs talk and everything, but like it's leaving credence to what Trooper is saying. Is that they don't want nobody who wants to do the job. They want somebody who wants to be there for just the job. They don't want nobody who wants to lead the job either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They
Because
don't
I
want
No.
mean,
anybody taking their leadership role.
yeah. I mean, essentially, that's what it becomes. I mean, people get very comfortable where they're at. They don't want to be outdone, and at the same time, you also have to look at it this way. It's like they're not looking for you to shake up the company or the department. They just want you to fold clothes. That's it.
Hmm.
Yep.
They don't want you to revolutionize their department and get more, uh, like more production from your employees, or get more commitment, or get more motivation out of your peer group. They just want you to
Yeah.
fold close, and that's a very
Yeah.
sad fact. So I mean, it's almost I hate to say it, you almost have to work for yourself. It's
Hmm.
honestly it's and it sounds tough, but you got to do it. You got to work for yourself, or you'll always be at the mercy of someone else, and
Hmm.
that's the
Yep.
worst. It's the worst position you can be in,
Yeah.
Be a
especially
rebel.
yeah, and especially in 2021 with
Oh
with
yeah.
everything that's going on and what's coming, you got to be able to be independent. So
Yep.
Brian, you got anything to add to that?
I think Trooper pretty much hit the nail on the head there. You've got to be, you got to be willing to be self-sufficient there.
yeah,
I think this is one good note to end this stream on.
Yeah.
I think
oh
this is where we can wrap it up right now. I mean,
Right.
usually I would like to stretch this to at least the fourth hour, like I always have. But I think we said enough of our piece. Especially, I want to end the sausage party anyways. No, I'm kidding. No, but like, truth be told, yeah, Trooper, this. I made this specifically to be your show
yeah, hmm,
because this is something that we need to talk about, and I want a true blue expert on this talk
Right.
and
yep,
what the ins and outs are
Right.
and everything. If anything, guys, check out Ma Pacelli's and Annette Pacelli's videos about job search and resume too. She has some very interesting breakdowns of how you're supposed to do it, and pretty much she's as far as the job interview thing, because the application and everything, as far as the job interview is concerned, she pretty much says what Trooper said here on the stream, but it's in video form.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what we're talking about, you guys need to listen, especially when you're looking for a prospective job, and even going into a career. You need to look like you're going to court. You need to look, just basically look on your best day, and still look your best day on your worst day. You gotta be very consistent on that front. So other than that, like, that's all I gotta say in the marriages.
Yeah, yeah.
Just speaking from experience, it's like there was never a moment where I went to work to an interview with flip flops or anything like that. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Mhm.
and then even if I got into the job, that was luck. Like I said, you got, like, if you're gonna go that route, you better pull some Pursuit of Happiness. And y'all know what I'm talking about when I bring up Pursuit of Happiness. That scene where he's in that interview and he's in nothing but pants without a shirt and only an overcoat, right?
Mhm.
It's like, if you go in the interview like that and you're desperate for a job, you better pull some shit, because that's like, anybody will tell you, like, look, some people will tell you that only works in movies. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's people that went in there worse than Will Smith's character in that movie, and probably have gotten a job that
Right.
way through that interview, or at least they were able to sell themselves so well that they disregard the fact that he looked the way he did, or she, and they hired them on because they saw something in that person that was
Mhm.
much needed in the company, something that was needed in the company. And whether it's not they just need somebody who want to be another cog in the machine, or to be the next great employee that's going to work their way up and replace and be the successor, which is not always a thing that happens often, but something like that happens. And these days it's rare that happens. It's not
Mhm.
always, and even back in the days it was rare that happened. It was a rare thing that happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree.
But that being
Right.
said, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Those who straggled in here and caught the fun end stick where I talk most of the fun talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian does what he can when he can. He knows
Yep.
it. He knows what he can do to interject in. You know,
Mhm.
Yep.
that's why he's the Maverick Hunter Saint. He's the man of a few words, but he will say
Yep.
what's on his mind.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. I guess this is the part where I'm supposed to sign off then. Thanks everybody for joining us, and hope you all had a
You
great
ain't
time
leaving,
listening.
motherfucker.
Oh, not
You
yet?
leaving with us.
Right.
That's why I'm saying, like, I'm doing this before you start saying I'm about ready to head. I'm fading.
Yeah.
Let me go over what we're covering in the
Okay.
future.
Oh, sorry. I guess I jumped the gun. I keep doing that a lot for some reason.
Because
Oh,
you
you
want to go to
just want to go to
bed.
bed. I'm just saying, you just want, like, ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I
I hear
probably
you.
will here in a second. I'm just wondering if I want to order porta subs or if I want to eat at home.
Or like last
Yeah.
Tuesday,
Well, I
or a
just
day from Tuesday.
well they deliver. I'm just like, do I want to pay that much for delivery? But I'm like, on the other
Right,
hand,
right,
it's
right.
really good food. So
So next Tuesday will be our first manga study, and the manga of our choosing will be Claymore,
Yep.
which will be covering the first 4 chapters of Claymore. No more, no less. This is a very expansive freaking manga series. We is
yeah,
not going to go through all the books like the professor's been doing with his Star Wars books,
yeah,
his Lord of the Ring books, and nah, we not the professor here in Big Al. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So for every manga study, we'll be doing, that's the format we're going to do. We're going to cover the first 4 chapters
Right.
of one of the books, and that's it. Maybe we'll return and cover some more chapters. You know,
Right.
if you guys like us talking about the manga enough, we can come back and do more chapters. But that's my limit.
Right.
Four chapters of the first volume. That's it. We're done with
Hmm.
that book, and we'll move on to another book. And what we'll be doing is we'll try to sell anybody who are talking about I'm going to go to manga for my entertainment. Well, yeah, okay, that's fine. But every time I hear y'all talking something, I'm gonna stick to manga. All y'all toss up is Boku no Hero Academia, One Piece, or Bleach,
Anything,
or
anything they saw on YouTube.
yep,
Yeah.
anything that was on YouTube, anything that was on YouTube, or anybody that's talking about what's new and current. Like y'all ain't going for nothing old or back then. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think next time when we do revisit manga studies, we'll be doing maybe Berserk or or I was thinking shit. It'll come back to me. Anyways, like to thank Trooper FN 2525.
It was super fantastic. We'll do it again on the next one. That'll be on Tuesday. It was super fantastic. Just go ahead and leave some comments in the comment section. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe, and make sure your notification bell is turned on. Of course, there's something weird going on with YouTube right now. You might not be getting all your notifications. Just make sure you
Yeah.
reset that bell. And this is Trooper FN2525 from out in the infinite throngs of space in the inner core on occupied Balmora. Signing off.
Yep.
Like to give a big shout out to Eloise for giving us the outside world's climate right now. But thank you, the Bear of the North, for being with us for the limited time she was with us.
Yep, yep.
Right.
But I also, on the same token, I would like to thank the Maverick Hunter Saint Brian Gill Martin.
Yes, thanks everybody for coming by, and remember to hit subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications because YouTube has been pretty screwy about the notifications lately. And hope you all had a good time. Leave a comment below. And this has been Brian Gilmartin. No damage to report. Moving to next area.
I'd like to thank also everybody and for giving Leia her due praise for her recovery. Again, continue to hope for her speedy recovery. She's gone through the surgery. Now she's in recovery. That's why she's been absent for a while since the start of September, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just keep giving her your praises, everybody. Wish her a full recovery. She will be returning when that happens, definitely. So, anyways, the Leia of Valor will return like the Phoenix.
Yes.
That being said, I'm your Wolf Commander Wolf 10. I'm your werewolf. Like to remind everybody, you are the UN Spacey. Welcome to
Oh, you think this is Harem of the Dead, you shrimp dick fuck nugget?